Welcome back to the channel. Today we will travel through the pages of What If Frame Deku Gained Powers to Change His Fate Part 8. The link to the story will be in the description below, and if you want an update of the current series, join the Discord. Now let's start. Chapter 22. This place is so crowded, Morgana mumbled, perched on Izuku's shoulder as he looked around the art gallery. Madram really is popular. I don't know anything about art, but he must be good to draw on this many people, Izuku said, his eyes trailing across the crowd scattered throughout the exhibit. Hey, get back in the bag. It'll be a pain in the ass if someone sees you. Ryuji pointed out. The cat wordlessly obeyed and hid in his usual spot. Just in time too, as the three were suddenly approached by Yusu Kitagawa. Instead of his school uniform, he wore a gray pinstripe blazer over a pink knitted shirt. You came. Yusuke exclaimed, an appreciative smile on his face as he stepped up to Anne. Yeah. Hey. His reaction to the boys accompanying her was delayed, looking over her shoulder before a resigned frown crossed his lips. You actually came. He's so disappointed. Izuku felt more out of place at the art exhibit than ever. Hey man, you're the one who gave us the tickets, Ryuji shrugged with a smirk. Try not to get in the way of the other visitors, Yusuke huffed before turning to Anne with an excited grin. Come, now. Let me show you around. We can discuss the details of the picture I would like to draw too. Anne was hesitant but didn't decline his offer. Well, see you guys later, I guess. She gave them a small awkward glance before following Yusuke into the gallery. Oh no. Is Lady Anne really going to be okay? What if he pulls her behind some painting and tries some funny business? Morgana exclaimed as he popped out of Izuku's bag. I said get back in there. Ryuji hissed, causing the cat to grumble but obey. Besides, he's an artist. I'm pretty sure Anne could take him. Heck, she'd probably take a chomp out of him. Besides, it's really busy here. He wouldn't bring her here if he was going to try something like that, Izuku said, trying to reassure the cat before looking at Ryuji. But since we're here now, let's look around. Are we really gonna appreciate the fine arts? Ryuji groaned in disdain, slumping his shoulders forward at the idea. Can't we just go home? It's worth looking around, at least. If there's a chance that this Madram is actually the one we heard about in Mementos, we should take a closer look. Ryuji sighed. Yeah, I guess. Not like we have anyone else to look at. We can do a once-over. With that, Izuku and Ryuji headed deeper inside, avoiding the massive line crowded against the wall with observers. Hey look, Ryuji pointed out, bringing them to a halt. At the center of the exhibit was a small rest area, where Madram was currently being interviewed by a reporter and her camera crew. It's the old man himself. Let's listen. Maybe we'll hear more about him, Izuku suggested. The faux blonde nodded in agreement. The two inched closer to hear the interview, but stayed just far enough as to not draw their attention. We continue to truly be surprised by your imagination. You have such expansive styles, it's hard to believe that it all stems from one person. Where in the world do you get all of your inspiration? Well, it's difficult to put into words, Madram began, giving a sage smile as he spoke. Much of my inspiration comes from within, welling up inside and rising up like bubbles from a spring within my heart. Naturally, you say. Yes. What is important though is to distance oneself from worldly desires such as money and fame. My atelier is a modest shack, but it is more than enough to pursue true beauty. A shack? Ryuji repeated. Does that mean something to you? Izuku asked, raising a brow. Well is that Madram? Izuku and Ryuji jumped as the attendees started to swarm the lounge area. Before they knew it, they were surrounded by Madram's entourage with little room to breathe. Calls of praise and adoration for the famous artist echoed from the crowd, paying little mind to either teen as they were crushed between overstuffed bags and flailing arms. I can't breathe. Morgana exclaimed from inside Izuku's bag. Hold on, Morgana-san. We have to get out of here. Izuku grit his teeth as he tried to snake through the audience. Don't die on us, alright. Tough it out till we get through. Ryuji said, pushing Izuku's back to help keep their momentum as they moved. I didn't know there were so many different styles of Japanese art. Anne said as she gazed at the part of the gallery before her. And it all comes from one person. Most artists stick to one style of their own. Sensei, however, creates all of this by himself, Yusuke explained with a gleam of pride. He's special. Ah, Yusuke. There you are. Anne and Yusuke turned to see Madram approach them with a gentle smile. Sensei. Ah, so you've been entertaining a guest. You're the girl from yesterday, correct? Madram asked, turning to Anne. Have you been enjoying the exhibit? Yes. I don't know how to put it into words, but all of this art is amazing, Anne said honestly. You're sensing something from the artwork. That alone is enough praise for an artist's satisfaction. He turned to Yusuke with a sincere expression. I believe that the piece you create with her will be beautiful, Yusuke. Well, if you'll excuse me, I have other guests to entertain. Thank you for talking with us. Anne said. With that, Madaram walked off to speak with more of his fans. You know, I expected an artist this talented to be stuffy and hard to approach. He's actually really friendly. Indeed. Yusuke nodded, the two turning back to the art. A particular piece caught Anne's eye, walking up to the wall it was mounted against. Unbeknownst to her, Yusuke flinched at the sight of it. Oh, this is it. This is the painting I wanted to see up close. Anne explained, eyes glued to the details. It was a simple yet beautifully crafted painting of a sunset, shades of blue representing the consuming darkness as the light began to fade. This one. Yusuke hesitantly said, slowly moving to stand by Anne and observe the painting. Yeah. I don't know what it is, but something always resonated with me about it. I don't know, Anne explained, holding her chin as she tried to nail down her thoughts. It was like I could feel the painter's anger. I'm not sure, but I can almost sense this strong frustration coming from it. To think that such a gentle and kind person could make such a piece. Yusuke remained silent, his face forming into a glare of displeasure as she spoke. Is something wrong? Anne asked, noticing his discomfort. No, don't mind me. Yusuke dismissed, the tone of his voice more strained as he put on a forced smile. There are better pieces than this one. Come now, this way. Hey. Anne called out, only for Yusuke to already begin walking away. What's his deal? Man, I thought we were gonna die in there. Ryuji groaned from his seat on the ground, nursing a sore spot on his stomach. I swear, that old lady effing elbowed me. At least you weren't in a bag. I could barely breathe until you guys got out of that crowd, Morgana whined, slouching over Izuku's shoulder and savoring every gulp of air he could get. Izuku sighed and rubbed his arm. I hope Anne-senpai is alright. I didn't want to leave, but there were just so many people. She'll be fine. I mean, at least we waitin' for her here, right? Ryuji suggested, the three having relocated to Shibuya Station. But forget about that for a sec. Remember when Madaram mentioned living in a shack? Oh, yeah. It sounded like you had heard that before, Izuku nodded. It could be a coincidence, but I dunno. Look at this, Ryuji said, holding up his phone for Izuku to see. Hey. The three jumped, looking up to see an irritated Anne stomping toward them. Why did you guys leave without me? Sorry, Anne-senpai. We didn't have much choice. Izuku answered frantically, his arms swing sporadically around him. Yeah. We didn't mean to. We just Ryuji struggled to find an excuse, so he instead hoped to distract her, holding his phone up for her to see. Forget that, look at this. This post on the fan site might be related to Madaram. Anne stopped, her attention suddenly taken by the news. What's it say? A master of the Japanese arts is plagiarizing his pupil's work. Only his public face is shown on TV. Ryuji began, repeating the words from the post for his friends to hear. Plagiarizing. I didn't think much of it at first, but when I heard Madaram say something about a shack, it reminded me of this post, Ryuji explained, looking back down at the thread. His treatment of the pupils living with him is awful. He teaches nothing and bosses them around. He treats them inhumanely, as if disciplining a dog. He forced us to live in a rundown shack while he runs off in the night without ever giving us an answer. Abuse on top of plagiarism, huh? Morgana said with interest. If this is all true, it could be a huge scandal, Ryuji said with a bit more excitement than he should have. I wonder if Kitagawa-kun is the one who posted this. He is a pupil of his, after all, Anne mumbled in worry, beginning to worry for the eccentric artist. Could be, but who knows. It was posted anonymously, Ryuji shrugged. Still, this is suspicious. First Madaram is mentioned in mementos, and then this post comes up, Izuku said, tilting his head down in thought. It really is feeling less and less like coincidence, but I think we still need more evidence before we jump the gun. I feel the same. He really didn't seem like the kind of guy who would be so cruel, Anne agreed, looking conflicted on the matter. I don't know. Some people are just really good at hiding their shitty side. But I see your point, Ryuji sighed, scratching the back of his head. By the way, what did you do about that modeling thing? Kitagawa-kun gave me his contact info. He also gave me the address to his sensei's atelier. He said he lives there, right? That works out for us, Ryuji grinned and jumped to his feet. Let's go tomorrow. We're off to Madaram's house right after school. What you want me to model tomorrow? Anne gasped, bristling at the idea. It's too sudden. What? Nah, I was just suggesting we go talk to Kitagawa. Oh, that's what you meant. That's alright, I guess. Anne breathed out in relief. I hate to do this, Anne-senpai, but maybe you should, Izuku spoke up, becoming shy at the topic as he rubbed the back of his head. But I only say that because we might need a good excuse to go. If we don't have one, we look really suspicious showing up out of nowhere, it's true. Plus, if we go snooping around about Madaram like this, he's bound to find out, Morgana agreed. Sorry, Lady Anne, but maybe we can get away with avoiding it after we ask our questions. Wait, what? so I actually have to say I'll do it, then. Anne exclaimed, looking nervous again after hearing that. Oh, come on. It's not like you haven't modeled before, Ryuji shrugged. What's the big deal? Modeling for a photo shoot and modeling for a painting are two very different things. Anne snapped, stomping a foot in the ground indignantly before looking at Izuku with big puppy dog eyes. Do I really have to? Izuku felt his resolve crumble, his face reddening as he backed away and wrapped an arm around his head to hide from her gaze. Well, if it's that much trouble for you, I guess we can just show up. Aw, come on dude. You gave up way too easily, Ryuji huffed in disappointment. Hush. You're not the one that has to pose. Anne said, glaring at Ryuji from the side before giving Izuku a thankful smile. At least someone is being considerate of how I feel. Thank you Izuku. Why yeah, of course, I can't say I blame him. It is hard to overcome Lady Anne's charm, Morgana said, a dreamy tone to his voice. Gimme a break whatever, then. Let's get going. It's getting late. With that, the three headed for their train. As they walked back, a sudden thought came to Izuku, wrestling for the phone in his pocket. What are you doing? Morgana asked, peeking over his shoulder. Well Kodo-san might not have accepted yet, but I feel like we should keep her in the loop. Just in case she changes her mind, Izuku explained, tapping away at the touch screen. Izuku. Hey, Kodo-san. I know you haven't said yes or no yet, but I thought I'd let you know we may have a big target soon. As he started to catch up with Ryuji and Anne, he soon heard his phone's text chime. Kodo-san. I see. What's your plan? Izuku. Tomorrow we're going to visit his house and talk to his pupil. It's a little complicated, but we are trying to make sure that we have the right guy. What's she saying? Ryuji asked, he and Anne waiting for Izuku by the line. She only asked what our plan was. I don't think that she will ring. Izuku raised his phone back up, his eyes lighting up with surprise. Kodo-san. Do you mind if I tag along? I want to see how the Phantom Thieves work. Man this is so lame. How come Phantom Thieves like us are taking the train to our target? I do this to get to and from school, Ryuji grumbled in annoyance as he stood at the center of the car, holding a handrail to balance himself. After school had ended the next day, the group immediately departed for Madaram's atelier. They had to take the usual train to get there, something that Ryuji was obviously upset about. I think it would be wise to keep from mentioning that phrase aloud, Sakamoto-kun. Unlike before, their group was now joined by Makoto Naojima, who sat next to Anne and Izuku in front of Ryuji. Alright, sorry. Thanks again for joining us, Kodo-san. We're happy to have you, Izuku said, smiling at the third year in appreciation. Yeah, no kidding. These guys are cool and all, but it's nice to have another girl around, Anne giggled. Well, let's not be too hasty. I'm just here to observe and understand the steps you all take when choosing a target for your operation, Makoto explained, though was nonetheless flattered by their words. Well, I suppose we can consider you a thief in training, Morgana snarked a bit, poking his head out of Izuku's bag to speak to her. Just try to keep up, okay newbie. You really do carry him everywhere, huh? Makoto chuckled, a small bead of sweat forming on her cheek. Hey, pipe down. We didn't pay the pet fare. Ryuji hissed at the cat. Hey, who are you calling a pet? I'm the guide here, so you should be calling me Maz. Hey, a kitty. The five went rigid as a young boy toddled over to them. Is that a real kitty? No. It's actually just a toy. It even meows when you press on its head. Right. Anne quickly said, looking to the others for support. Oh, yes. This is definitely not a real cat, Makoto said, forcing a smile as she turned to look at Izuku. She wasn't any better at lying than he was. You heard him, dude. Why don't you give the kid a little demo? Ryuji said, grinning in amusement as he looked down at Izuku and Morgana. Whyu Morgana grumbled. Knowing that he was likely beginning to meow in the child's ears, Izuku quickly pressed down on the top of his head, though a little harder than he intended. Oh meanmeow. Just a cute toy, Izuku said, laughing awkwardly as the boy stared in amazement. Oh, come on, dude. You gotta really sell it, Ryuji declared, leaning forward and placing his hand on top of Morgana's head. In times like these, you gotta button mash. Huh. Without warning, Ryuji pressed down on the top of Morgana's head with unwarranted speed, causing the cat to release a jumbled and pained set of meows. When he was done, the cat's head fell limp on the edge of the bag, eyes rolled into the back of his head. Ryuji-senpai. Izuku exclaimed, jaw agape. Stared down at the cat in shock. Woe. Again. The child laughed, clapping in excitement. Sorry kid. But our line is coming up, Anne pointed out, thankful for their timely arrival. Aw, okay. Thank you. The kid said before running off to his mother further down the seats. Is he okay? Makoto asked, tilting her head to the side as she inspected the nauseous cat in worry. I threw up in my mouth. Morgana blanched, letting out a dizzy groan. Ah, he'll be fine once we get him out in the open air, Ryuji chuckled carelessly. I'll make you pay for this, someday man, this is so lame. Not only did we take the train halfway, now we gotta walk there, Ryuji groaned, the five now hiking on the sidewalks leading to the residential area near Shibuya. Stop complaining, Morgana huffed in annoyance. It's not like we had a choice. Shibuya is the closest station, Anne shrugged. The area they live in is pretty pricey, though. Even though it's a shack, they're in a really good neighborhood. This might be what we need, though. We should go over what we're going to ask before we get there, Izuku suggested helpfully. You guys haven't thought that through yet? Makoto asked, causing the three to shift a bit in embarrassment. Well, we did just decide to come here yesterday, Izuku rubbed the back of his head. We haven't had much time to plan it out. Do we really need to, though? Why not just ask him straight out if he's been getting some really messed up treatment from that old man, Ryuji shrugged. If he is the one who put the post on the fan site, it might be the easiest way to get the answers we need, Anne agreed. But what if he isn't? Izuku pointed out, holding his chin in thought. If it wasn't him, then it might be hard to get anything out of Kitagawa-san. We might just make him angry. We should be careful about how we approach this, or it'll be just like with the students we spoke to about Kamoshida, Ryuji-senpai. Ryuji flinched at that, kicking the ground nervously. Yeah, I guess you're right about that, but then how are we gonna get the info we need? Asking straight out might be your only option anyways, considering that you guys didn't inform Kitagawa of your arrival, Morgana pointed out, Izuku and Anne guiltily looking away from the cat as he said this. Just try to ask him tactfully. There is another option open, Makoto suddenly spoke up, causing the others to stop and look back at her in question. Well, considering Kitagawa doesn't know me, why not use that? What do you mean? Anne asked. I'll pretend to be writing a report on Madaram and his history and art. When I heard about your meeting with his pupil, I asked to come along so I could get some insider information on the artist. It might not completely excuse our sudden arrival, but it'll allow me to ask some more personal questions that someone might not be comfortable with answering normally. What do you think? Izuku, Ryuji, Anne and Morgana stared at Makoto in complete silence for a few moments. She pushed a strand of hair behind her ear and looked off to the side. I mean, if you guys wouldn't mind my help, that's a great plan, Koto-san. Izuku exclaimed. Yeah, dude. That's way better than anything we coulda done by ourselves. It's a good thing you're here, Ryuji grinned, giving Makoto a thumbs up. I could have come up with something eventually, Morgana said defensively, shifting one paw over the other before giving Makoto an appreciative look. But still, that is indeed a wise course of action to take. I think we should go along with your plan as well. Score one for the new girl. I'm so glad we brought you along. Anne cheered, giving a kind smile to the brunette in appreciation. Makoto felt her cheeks heat up and she folded her hands together. Well, I didn't want to just be here and not give my 2 cents on the matter, but I'm glad I was able to help in some way. Okay, guys. We'll let Koto-san take the lead on this. And senpai, you might have to help get Kitagawa-san talking too, though. We're counting on you both to get the answers we need, okay? Right. I'll do what I can to support you, Naijima-senpai. Anne said, raising a hand to give Makoto a high five. Makoto shyly returned the gesture before flashing the most confident smile she could manage. Alright. Leave it to me, she said, the group turning around and beginning to move forward again. After another 15 minutes of walking, the group arrived at Madaram's atelier. When Izuku heard the word shack, he wasn't sure what to expect, but he definitely didn't think two people would be living in a building that looked ready to fall over. The siding consisted of mismatched pieces of rusted, crumpled awnings that were hastily stitched together with nails and bolts. The awning that sat over the front door consisted of a tarp pulled over another piece of rusted iron, and the wiring for the overhead lamp was exposed. Even the sliding door was composed of dry, splintering wood laid over a dark paper screen. Is that it? Ryuji blurted, his nose wrinkling as he looked up at the shack. This is the right address, Anne muttered. I heard that Madaram was a starving artist, but this seems almost over the top, Makoto said, scanning the house for potential structural weaknesses to worry about. Well, let's stick to the plan. Koto-san and Anne-senpai will take the lead on this. We'll try to support whatever you guys say in case he starts asking questions, said Izuku, turning to the others as he spoke. Right, gotcha, go ahead and knock on the door, Anne, Ryuji coughed, taking a minute but noticeable step back from the atelier. What? Me? Are you sure it won't collapse if I do? Careful not to sneeze or we'll blow the whole place down, Morgana chuckled from Izuku's bag. Come on, I'm sure it's nothing that bad. Probably, Makoto trailed off, not fully convinced herself that this was a suitable place for people to live in. The 4+1 cat moved to the front entrance, seeing the nameplate with Madaram's nameplate next to the door. With 10 swallow, Anne reached an arm forward and pressed a doorbell. Who is it? It was Yusuke's voice, speaking over an intercom above the bell. Sensei is currently out right now. You will Kitagawa-kun. It's me, Takamaki. Takamaki. I'll be right down. So people really do live here, Ryuji muttered, unsure how the house was able to hold a person's weight. He sounded rather excited to see you, Takamaki-san. He must really want you for his painting, said Makoto. Anne groaned, you have no idea. Just wait until, Takamaki-san. Yusuke spoke as he immediately slid the door open. But the moment he caught sight of Ryuji and Izuku, his expression shifted into a glare. You two are here as well. His gaze then shifted to Makoto, his glare failing for a moment as he raised a brow. Oh. But you're new. Hi there. We're terribly sorry to pop in on you without warning. My name is Makoto Niijima, a third year at Shujin Academy and their senior, Makoto said, bowing in greeting. Yusuke seemed hesitant, suspicious, but still returning the greeting. Hello. Yusuke Kitagawa. It's nice to make your acquaintance. We're really sorry about doing this last second, Kitagawa-kun, but Niijima-senpai needed to see you immediately, Anne said, putting on a pleading smile as she tried to do her part. She needed to see me? What for? Yusuke asked, raising a brow. He looked at Makoto. You see, I'm actually doing a report on Madarame-sensei. I've been fascinated with his work for some time now and decided to write an essay based on his history as an artist, Makoto said as naturally as possible. But then Takamaki-kun told me that she actually knew his pupil and I had to come down and see you. I'm sorry it's so last minute, but my report is due soon and I needed to speak with you as soon as possible. Yeah, that's why I didn't contact you about it. Sorry, Kitagawa-kun. Yusuke seemed taken back by the news, his expression softening as he placed a hand on his hip. I see, but why are you two here as well, then? Oh, well, you know how it is. Gotta make sure that the girls were getting around safely and all, Ryuji lamely excused. Sorry if us being here is a bother, Izuku bowed in apology. I suppose not. But sensei isn't here right now and he doesn't take interviews unless scheduled for. Well, that's why I was hoping to talk to you instead. Makoto said before he moved to shut the door. I'm sure Madarame-sensei is quite busy and I wouldn't want to waste his time. So I thought I'd get to know him through the eyes of his pupil. Ah, now I understand. Well, I hate to waste your time, I'm not much of one for interviews. I have some of my own work to focus on as well, Yusuke said, causing the four to stiffen. But I might be willing to make this one exception, but in return his eyes shifted to Anne, a small smirk playing on his lips. I request that Takamaki-san accept my offer to become my model. What? I don't like using this as leverage, Takamaki-san, but you must understand how serious I am about this, Yusuke said, bringing his hands up to his chest as his eyes shined with excitement. If you agree to this, I will provide whatever insight that I can to Niijima-san. But that is the only offer I am willing to make. Anne nervously tugged at the curly locks of her hair, looking at her friends for a way out of this. All she got were sympathetic glances. Sorry, Anne-senpai, come on Anne. Take one for the team. Anne took a deep breath, her shoulders slumping into feet. Okay, I'll do it. But not today. I need time to mentally prepare for this. That's fine. We wouldn't have time to do it today either way. But knowing that you're on board to do so means everything to me, Yusuke said, giving a genuine smile before turning to Makoto. Alright, Niijima-san. I'll answer what questions you have about sensei. We'll have to make it quick as he'll be back soon and I'll have to give him my aid for the rest of the evening. Oh, of course. Thank you, Kitagawa-san. Makoto said, bowing in appreciation before the four followed him inside. Ryuji moved to put a hand on Anne's shoulder, only for the platinum blonde to shoot him a glare and stomp her way inside the atelier. The group followed Yusuke to his art studio, the artist providing them with chairs to sit in, while he took a seat across from Makoto. Alright, Niijima-san. Ask away. Of course. Alright, where to start? Makoto began, clearing her throat as she clicked a pen in her hand and prepared to write notes down on a notebook in hand. From there, Makoto began with simple questions such as how long have you known Madarame and what kind of teacher is Madarame? These weren't the questions they wanted to ask, but Izuku knew that she was using them as a way to get Yusuke talking and lower his defenses. He answered everything curtly, speaking with a certain amount of pride each time he recalled a personal time between him and his master. Man, she's really got this down, Ryuji whispered to Izuku. I'm half convinced she actually is interviewing him for a report. Same. Niijima-senpai is pretty amazing, Anne muttered as she leaned closer to the two from Ryuji's left side. Alright, just a few more questions and I'll let you go, Kitagawa-san, Makoto said, jotting down the last notable words that Yusuke had given her. Ah, good. Sensei should be back soon, so it would be best to wrap this up, Yusuke nodded in agreement. Alright, now these next questions are going to sound very personal, Kitagawa-san. Please bear with me and try not to get offended, okay? Makoto said, crossing her hands over in her lap as she prepared for the final push. What kind of questions could they possibly be? Yusuke asked with narrowed eyes. Well, recently, rumors have sprouted up on the internet about Madaram's treatment of his students. They're accusing him of abusing his pupils and plagiarizing their work. What? That's outrageous. Yusuke stood up from his seat as he declared this. I am his pupil, in case you forgot, and I say with utter certainty that such rumors are blatantly false. Hey Kitagawa-san, it's okay, just calm down. Makoto put her hands up in hopes of placating him. It's just a few posts that I've seen online while researching Madaram-sensei. I'm not saying he is or isn't. Yusuke was silent, his anger slowly dissipating as he looked across the room at his guests. He sat back down in his seat, taking a deep breath as he let himself calm down. Forgive me, that was very uncouth. It just displeases me to hear such rumors going around about Sensei. I understand. He is your mentor, after all. It's much more than that. Sensei took me in as a child when I had nothing. It is because of him that you see the man before you now, Yusuke declared, his voice filled with deep conviction. I owe him my life. The four silently glanced at one another when they heard the sincerity in Yusuke's words. Makoto shifted in her chair, sending Izuku a questioning look that asked if that was all they needed. Izuku nodded in return. There wasn't much left for them to ask. Well, I think that's it for my questions, Kitagawa-san. Thank you for taking the time to see me, Makoto said, uncrossing her legs and standing from her seat, Izuku and the others doing the same. And I'm sorry for bringing up such a subject. No, it's quite alright. I'm glad that I could clear that up for you and hope that it will convince any other naysayers, Yusuke said with a nod. His face suddenly lit up as a smile crossed his lips. Dear, I know. Let me show you something that will sway any lingering doubts in your mind. Yusuke fished into his pockets for his phone, his guests looking at him curiously before crowding around him to see what he had to show. Behold Sensei's maiden work, the Sayuri. Awe swept through them as he presented the image on his phone. It was a beautifully painted woman, her expression carrying deep love. None of them knew what it was, but they could feel the emotion put into the painting. It's so beautiful, Anne muttered, entranced by the image. I knew about this piece, but I haven't seen it in some time, Makoto said, forced to make a little white lie about her knowledge. She was no less taken back by its beauty than the others. I don't know much about this fine art stuff, but even I can tell that this is impressive, Ryuji admitted. So this was his first piece? Izuku asked. It's incredible. Yes. This is the painting that inspired me to become an artist. It filled me with such deep emotion the first time that I saw it, the same thing I felt the first time I saw you, Yusuke said, turning to Anne. She jumped. Me? Yes. I wish to pursue beauty like the Sayuri with my own art. And I hope that I can do so with your aid, Yusuke declared, a sincere smile spreading across his face. So please understand how serious I am about this painting I wish to create. I see. I see you've done well to defend me, Yusuke. The four jumped, their heads swiveling behind them to see Madaram standing at the door. Sensei. Sorry to butt in, but as I came back, I heard your voice being raised. I apologize for eavesdropping, but it was good to hear Yusuke defend me against such rumors, Madaram chuckled kindly, causing the four to nervously shift. Don't worry, I understand. It makes sense to doubt a cranky old man like myself, I'm sure. But I'm happy to see what emotion you all felt after seeing my work. Why yes, sorry for asking your student such a rude question, Makoto said, her right eye shut as she felt embarrassed. Think nothing of it. If I can clear the doubts of even one person, that's good enough for me, Madaram laughed again. Yusuke, whenever you're done with your friends, please come to my studio so we can start our work. Of course, sensei. I'll be right up, Yusuke said, watching his mentor take his leave. With that, I do believe we're done here. Allow me to show you out. And no, that's okay. Feel free to go and help out your teacher, Izuku suggested, giving an apologetic expression. We don't want to hold you up. Thank you for seeing us today. I see. Well then, I shall do just that. I'm glad I could talk some sense into you all. Takamaki-san, I will be in touch. Be sure to let me know when you're available to model for my painting, will you? Right. I will, Anne nodded. With that, the group exited the atelier, parting ways with Yusuke and stopping once they reached the sidewalk. So what do you guys think? Izuku asked. Morgana hopped out of his bag, jumping on top of a nearby street rail. I dunno, man, they both seem like some nice guys to me, to be honest, Ryuji admitted, letting out a sigh as he scratched the back of his head. Yusuke did seem really adamant about Madaram not being abusive or plagiarizing. Maybe we really do have the wrong guy, Anne said, feeling guilty of suspecting Madaram of foul play. Maybe, well, at least we checked for ourselves. Thank you for your help today, Koto-san, Izuku said, turning to the third year with a small smile. Sorry we brought you along for something that didn't pan out. You even ended up doing the most in there. No, it's fine. At least I know you guys aren't just picking people as targets without concrete evidence. Not that I would doubt you on that, Makoto chuckled, giving Izuku a small smile in return. Before you guys jump off the Mataram bus, why don't you check the metanav? Morgana suggested, causing the group to raise a brow in confusion. Izuku did as he said though, pulling out his phone. Only to find that the metanav was already open. Location found. Please enter final keyword to begin navigation. What? Izuku, Anne and Ryuji blurted, shocked to see that the app was already open. What is it? What's going on? Makoto asked, walking up beside them to look at the phone. It looks like the metanav already has Mataram listed for us. That means he does have a palace, Izuku explained, trailing off as his suspicions began to build again. So does that mean the rumors are true? What the hell is going on? Ryuji exclaimed, looking at the others in confusion. Let's take a look at what we've got so far in the metanav, Morgana said, Izuku walking over and showing him the entries. So the trigger words entered so far are Mataram, plagiarism, and shack. All we're missing is what Mataram envisions the shack to be. What do you mean? Makoto asked, still the least knowledgeable on the subject than the others. Well, you see, the palaces form into how the ruler envisions the place that they exist. Like with Kamoshida, he pictured the school as his castle, which materialized an actual castle in the cognitive world, Izuku explained for Makoto, looking down at his phone in thought. We have to figure out what kind of place Mataram visualizes the shack to be to him. For real, though, I can't believe that old man really has a palace. This is so damn strange, Ryuji grumbled, his foot tapping on the ground. Well, let's set aside our doubts for now and try to figure out what the final keyword is, Morgana said, looking around at the group. So, any suggestions? Well, he is an artist, so maybe it's related to that. Anne shrugged, unsure if her hunch was right or not. Well, that's not a bad place to start. Maybe an exhibition. Izuku said, holding the phone up to his mouth as he spoke. No entry found. A jail. Ryuji tossed out. No entry found. That wasn't really related to art, though, Anne pointed out. I know, I was just thinking about what that post said about him, I guess, Ryuji sighed in disappointment. Here, let me try, Makoto said, Izuku nodding as he held the phone up for her to speak into. If the artist angle does work for us, then perhaps a museum. Entry found. Beginning navigation. Wait, beginning navigation, Ryuji exclaimed. Without further warning, the world around them began to warp. Makoto was especially disoriented by the shift in scenery, the sky's hue changing from the soft orange of a sunset to that of a moonlit night. Looking around, she realized that the others had transformed, seeing Izuku in the outfit he wore the day he took her into Mementos. What the hey? Warn me before you guys travel to the metaverse next time. Morgana complained, having trouble balancing on the street rail now that he was back on 2 feet. Ryuji shrugged. We didn't do it on purpose. It just kinda took us here once, Naijima-senpai said the keyword. Wow, so all of your outfits changed too, Makoto said, moving closer to Anne and Ryuji and inspecting their new outfits. I hadn't thought of what kind of changes your wardrobes would go through, despite seeing Midori in his outfit. I have to say though, Takamaki-kun, I wasn't expecting something so daring. Anne hugged herself to cover her chest. Let's not talk about it. I didn't really have a choice in the matter. Guys, look. The shack changed, Izuku pointed out, causing his teammates to look back at where the scrap pile lately once stood. In its place was a sprawling complex composed of prisms of all kinds stacked atop one another. The building seemed to glow shades of bronze as gold, wispy detailing crept its way around each and every window, which all emitted blue light. The high wall composed of blocks arranged to rise and fall like a wave wrapped around the place. Searchlights shot into the darkened clouds above, as if to flag down more guests than the veritable army of attendees already present. Dude, how is that crummy shack this fanciest museum? Ryuji blurted, eyes scanning the museum up and down. Wow, it's so extravagant to the point that it's gaudy, Anne said, her voice filled with disappointment. So this is a palace. It's far different than that Mementos place you brought me to, Makoto mused, holding her chin in interest as she inspected the design. Yeah. This is a lot different than Kamoshida's palace, Izuku said, crossing his arms in thought. Remember, a palace is a reflection of their owner's desires. The setting will vary between rulers based on how they see themselves and where the palace exists, Morgana explained. But Mataram's artwork is on display in a bunch of different museums in reality, too. His exhibit was popular and tons of people already respect him. It seems really weird that he'd fantasize about a museum, too, said Anne. You got a point. It ain't related to plagiarism or abuse, either, Ryuji agreed, crossing his arms over his chest before looking at Makoto and Izuku. It's hard to say, we don't have enough information to really answer that, Izuku sighed, tilting his head down as he tried to determine the answer himself. Maybe there's something he wants to show people, but can't. Makoto guessed, drawing the others' attention to her. This is just a theory, so don't quote me on it, but perhaps he wants to display something that wouldn't be acceptable to the public. Huh. Interesting theory, newbie. Still, there's no use racking our brains about it until we confirm it for ourselves. We should try looking around, Morgana suggested, earning nods of agreement from the others. That aside, though ain't a museum a must for phantom thieves? Ryuji pointed out, grinning in anticipation. I suppose if we were thieves in the more literal sense, Izuku chuckled. But don't let your guard down. Aside from shadows, we'll probably have to deal with some kind of security system if it's anything like a real museum. Right. I'll keep my eyes open, Ryuji nodded before turning to examine the faceless crowd lined up outside the front entrance. We're not gonna get in line to try and get in, are we? What? What kind of phantom thieves would we be if we used the front entrance? Morgana snapped. The idea alone seemed to irritate him. We'll have to find our own way in. Besides, I doubt security would let us in looking like this, anyway. Right, good point. Heh. You guys are really into the whole thief aspect. I'd almost think you were more interested in stealing treasure than anything else, Makoto giggled in amusement, smiling as she looked over at Izuku. Why yeah, they really like to get into the role, Izuku laughed, rubbing the back of his head. So, how will we proceed from here? Well, Izuku trailed off, his lips curling down into a frown. Well, the rest of us will go into the museum to stake it out, but. Makoto began before widening her eyes in realization. Wait, no. You're not going to leave me, are you? Oh, right. I totally forgot about what we'd do with you, Ryuji muttered honestly. I'm sorry, Naejima-senpai. You probably have to stay behind, Anne said, feeling a bit awkward having to tell her this. But why I've come this far, haven't I? We're sorry, Naejima-san. But like you said, you're not a true member of the team yet. Not to mention you don't have a persona to protect yourself with, Morgana pointed out. I'm sorry, Koto-san. I wasn't expecting us to go into the palace like this today, Izuku explained. But it really will be dangerous for you to come with us with shadows moving around. But I wanted to see how you guys operate. Makoto pushed, panic crossing her expression. Besides, you know I can handle myself. Not only have I kept up my training in Aikido, but you know that my quirk should be enough to protect me. Izuku opened his mouth to argue, but saw her point in that. Well, that is true, but oh, right. Izuku never did tell us what your quirk is, Ryuji pointed out with interest. What exactly can you do? Makoto smiled at the question, raising her hands and pulling her leather gloves off. Looking around, she spotted a car on the street in front of the museum, walking up to it and placing her right hand on the surface. The group followed after third-year brunette and intently watched her every move. Much to their surprise, the skin of her right hand took on a steely matte hue. Raising her hand back up for them to see, she pulled her sleeve down, revealing that the rest of her arm had changed as well. My quirk is called absorption. With my right hand, I can place my fingertips on any inorganic matter and absorb the properties of whatever I touch. Metal, cement, plastic, you name it. So long as it isn't some sort of living thing like people or plants, I can absorb that material and turn my body into it. WHWHAT, Ryuji, Anne and Morgana gaped. It's an amazing quirk, right? Izuku exploded, his eyes awash with admiration as he lost himself in the moment. But that's not all. She can also no spoilers, Midori, the green-haired teen curled his lips in before he could blurt anything else. She walked over to one of the helix-shaped lampposts, her audience following close behind. Makoto raised her left hand, touching one of the light bulbs. She used her still metallic hand to break the stained glass, revealing the small circuit at the center that generated the light. Makoto reached forward and touched the open circuit directly. Instead of getting shocked, her fingers tightened around the wire as sparks started to crackle around her hand. The other lights on the post began to flicker and dim until Makoto released the circuit. And with my left hand, I can absorb energy. Holding up her left hand for them to see, three thieves felt their jaws slacken as electricity streamed between her fingers. I can pass the energy I absorbed throughout the rest of my body, even while maintaining the characteristics of something I absorbed with my right hand. Makoto let the electric current move through her body and into her right hand, the metal sparking as the electricity wrapped around her fist. I only have two weaknesses. I can only maintain this for a minute before my body returns to normal. I can't absorb more than one thing at a time with each hand, so if I have metal already absorbed, I can't absorb cement on top of it. Still, I'd say that my quirk qualifies for being strong enough to protect me. Holy shit, for real. Ryuji muttered. Your quirk is incredible. Anne exclaimed, her eyes lighting up as her shock passed. I thought Ryuji's wasn't so bad if it wasn't for his bum knee, but yours certainly takes the cake, Morgana said, staring at Makoto in disbelief. Kodo-san could have become a hero with a quirk like hers. It really is amazing, Izuku nodded, but the frown on his face only spread as he looked down. But still, even with that awe, come on, dude. I think she'll be fine in there. Ryuji pitched in, patting Izuku on the shoulder. Besides, we're only staking the place out right now, anyway. It's not like we're going for the treasure right now, right? Well, plus, this might be a good chance to see how Makoto holds her own against shadows. As a potential phantom thief, she should know what kinds of threats we'll be dealing with, Morgana pointed out this time, deciding to support the decision. Yeah, Izuku. I think we should give her a chance. Naijima-senpai has been really helpful so far, after all, Anne said, pitching in the Makoto camp this time. Izuku's eyes darted between his teammates. He could see their points, but his thoughts were still riddled with doubt. Midori, you asked me to join the Phantom Thieves of Hearts, Makoto began, walking up to the green-haired teen and placing a hand on his shoulder. And while I have my reservations, I'd be lying to say that I'm not becoming more and more interested in joining you. So please, let me have this chance to show you that I can pull my weight. I'll follow your instructions and I won't get cocky. Izuku stared back at Makoto, worry lingering in his eyes. Despite his concerns, Izuku took a deep breath and nodded. Alright, Kodo-san. You can come. The team cheered in response, and Makoto gave Izuku an appreciative grin. I won't let you guys down. I believe you. Just don't underestimate any of the enemies we see in there, okay? Izuku said before turning around, leading the group to the front wall. Alright, everyone. Let's do our best to scout the palace out. Yeah. Makoto trailed behind the others, allowing them to guide while she listened for their instructions. The last thing she wanted was to get in their way, especially on her first mission with them. I promise that it'll be useful, Midori. Chapter 23. Make sure to watch your step, Kodo-san. Izuku expertly leaped from one pillar to the next, Ryuji and Anne just ahead of him. Izuku watched the third year tentatively, ready to catch her in case she fell. It would be even worse if she drew the attention of the nearby shadows patrolling the courtyard. Okay, Makoto nodded, hopping along the pillars in a slow rhythm. Her skirt was restricting her movements, but she wasn't about to let something this small get in her way now. She soon reached the other end, Izuku steadying her as she set foot on the roof. Phew. You guys made it look so easy, but it was pretty intimidating. Especially with the shadows below. Yeah, it did take some getting used to. But it'll get easier for you as we go, Izuku turned to face the rest of his team. Do we have a way in? Yeah, but it's pretty far down, Ryuji explained as he peered over the edge of a skylight. I don't know if we want to jump that. I've got it covered, Morgana smirked, hopping over to the punk and producing a rope from nowhere. As phantom thieves, we must always be prepared for situations like these. Whoa, score one for Mona. Anne cheered. Where the hell did you even get that? Ryuji asked in disbelief. I made sure to have one ready. I am the tool specialist of the group, after all. Alright, let's rope down then. But make sure no shadows are around to jump us the moment we touch the ground, Izuku told them. The room wasn't lit, but there was enough moonlight streaming through the skylights to illuminate the room. Nothing moved aside from the undulating colors of the gold-framed paintings on the walls. Looks like we're clear, Ryuji said after one last check. Alright. Lower the rope and I'll go in first to make sure, Izuku volunteered, earning a nod from Morgana. Pulling the window open, the cat tossed the rope down, allowing Izuku to shimmy down safely. Landing on soft blue carpet, Izuku activated his third eye, gaze trailing across the room cautiously. Aside from some hidden treasures in a few vases, there was nothing waiting for them. Okay, it's safe. Come down. Izuku hopped down to the floor to make room for the other thieves as they descended from the skylight. As Makoto hopped down last, the group moved slowly through the room, minding their surroundings. It's quiet. Almost too quiet, Morgana muttered, eyes narrowed in suspicion. Hey. Look at the picture. Anne exclaimed as she gawked at the painting before her. It's moving. Oh, come on. That's gotta be the least bizarre thing you could expect in a palace. Now, Ryuji waved her off as he glanced at the other trembling paintings. Still, this is a reflection of Madaram's heart. We should check the pictures out and see if they can clue us in on anything, Morgana suggested, the group moving forward to inspect the painting. Anne tilted her head to the side. Strange, the painting's just a portrait. Madaram's famous for having so many different art styles, so why would something like this be here? There's a plaque here. Maybe it'll give us some details. Ryuji stepped forward to read it. It's just a name and date. What the hell? That doesn't sound right. Maybe it's the name of the painter. Anne suggested. That wouldn't make much sense. Considering Madaram's distorted desires, the painting would have to be something he's personally invested in, right? Izuku said, holding his chin as he looked at her from the side. Makoto nodded. Judging from the way you explained the palace to me, that does sound more likely. Come on. Let's take a look at the other paintings. Maybe we'll get some more clues as to the meaning behind this, Morgana said, the group moving toward the next hall. Izuku took note of the security system strewn around the doors and walls. It seemed to be off, but he imagined that wouldn't be the case the next time they came. Pulling his attention away from the electronic security, he inspected the portraits with everyone else, soon discovering that they were all the same as the first. A portrait of someone none of them knew, with a plaque supposedly of their name and, considering the dates, their birthdays. This doesn't make sense. Madaram's known for having a multitude of artistic styles, Anne declared, rubbing her arm uncomfortably. Why do all these portraits look the same? Hey, look. Ryuji jogged ahead of the others to study another portrait. Ain't this the guy we saw in Mementos? You know, the one who was shit-talking Madaram. Izuku, Anne and Morgana shifted their gazes up to see the image of their previous target on the wall. It really is him, Natsuhiko Nakanohara, Morgana said, skipping up to the plaque by the portrait. It has his name and everything. You guys targeted him before? Makoto asked, striding alongside the others. Yeah. He didn't have a palace, but we did fight his shadow. His desires had become twisted enough that he started stalking his ex-girlfriend. Izuku's eyes trailed from the portrait to Makoto. After we took him down, he mentioned that Madaram had ruined his life. I guess we really do have the right guy, but that don't make any sense. Ryuji furiously scratched the top of his head. Why is there a painting of this guy in here? And why is his name under it? Anne's gaze fell. You're right, aren't the names of the paintings or the artist usually written here? The better question would be why Madaram would want to put these people on display like this. Could it be that he values these people? Or something more devious? Makoto suggested, the rest of the thieves looking at one another. Well, at least no one is being tortured like in Kamoshida's castle. This might be a good sign. Izuku's voice quivered as he said this. But that might just mean he's not physically abusive. There could be something else going on here instead. Right. Let's keep pushing forward, said Morgana. The group continued on, their eyes hovering over the portraits hanging close by. As Izuku scanned their surroundings, his eyes landed on a portrait at the end of the hall. Hey, look. Isn't that Kitagawa-san? The others followed his gaze, confirming his inquiry with their own eyes. A portrait of Madaram's pupil stretched up against the wall, noticeably bigger than the rest so far. Yep. That's definitely him, Ryuji said, stuffing his hands in his pockets. Well, if Nakanohara has the relationship with Madaram, I think he does. This would confirm one thing, Makoto spoke up, drawing the others' attention to her. These portraits are all of his pupils. Izuku nodded grimly. Yeah, I was thinking the same, it does fit the bill. His pupils supposedly got the brunt of problems in the rumors, Anne pointed out in agreement. Whoa, for real. But there's so many of them. Ryuji took a step back. It was only that Yusuke guy when we were there. This gallery must include former pupils as well, Morgana said, placing his paws on his hips. And now only one remains. What Nakanohara said is starting to become clearer now. Let's keep digging. We need something more to confirm our deductions. The group nodded, heading toward the next hall together. As they entered what looked like the main entrance, Morgana's eyes lit up as he spotted a reception desk. Oh, look. On that stand. We should be able to get a map from there. Great. Go ahead and grab one for us so we can find our way around, Izuku told him, the cat nodding before skipping forward and grabbing a pamphlet, Ryuji and Anne following behind and looking at the map as he laid it out for them to see. You know, I'm kinda surprised, Makoto said, tugging on Izuku's coat before he could join the others. I didn't think we'd get so far without encountering a shadow as you said. Ah, I suppose not, huh? Izuku agreed before a thought occurred to him. Then again, we did enter the last palace without knowing anything at the time, so we walked right into the guards. Since we were a lot more careful this time around, we haven't made any shifts to the cognition that would make Madaram wary of us just yet. I see. It seems I still have a bit to learn about this metaverse. I'm sure you'll catch up faster than we did, Izuku said before joining the others. So did you find a map? Yeah, but it's only of half of the museum. We'll probably have to find the rest deeper within, Morgana said, though his face was a bit concerned. But judging from what I'm seeing here, this place is actually going to be bigger than Kamoshida's castle. Oh, just great. Wasn't the stupid castle big enough? Ryuji clicked his tongue, his toe tapping the ground impatiently. We'll have to worry about that later. Our objective right now is to peer through Madaram's cognition, Morgana reminded him. Considering he's got a palace, ain't that fishy enough? Even so, the more details we know, the better. A palace and what we've seen so far doesn't confirm any crimes. At least not yet, Izuku suggested. Let's keep pushing. Right, the others agreed. Morgana tucked the pamphlet away for later use. Proceeding into the next room, they entered a more spacious area. Twin rows of gold banners emblazoned with Madaram's name and likeness ran along the ceiling. They danced back and forth even though there wasn't a breeze to push them. The rows met and circled around a statue at the center of the room. It was a gilded wave consisting of 3 rows of metal that spiraled into the air counterclockwise. The forms of people, students, were found on every level of the statue. Some were curled up in a ball of despair. Others were cowering from some unknown assailant. A few more were begging on the ground like starved dogs. Morgana stepped closer, eyes narrowing at the design and plaque under it. "Take a look at this." The infinite Spring Anne raised a brow. A conglomerate work of art that the great director Mataram created with his own funds. These individuals must offer up their ideas up to director Mataram for the rest of their lives. Those who cannot do so have no worth living. Wait, this has to do with the plagiarism, right? Offer up, So the plagiarism is real, then said Makoto. Izuku nodded. I guess that means that he's just stealing his students' art and using them for fame and fortune. Ryuji stomped the ground hard enough for it to echo through the halls. Damn it, that phony geezer. If what this statue indicates is true, he views his pupils as property. This is even worse than we thought, Morgana pointed out, turning to the rest of the team. He's likely giving his pupils a livelihood in exchange for their art to be added to his own accolades. I'm guessing that all of the past pupils were just tossed aside like trash. If that's the case. Nakanohara is proof of that, Makoto pointed out. They were either fed up with his treatment or weren't making paintings useful to him anymore and were shut out. He's just treating them like slaves or tools. Anne exclaimed. Damn it, if this is all true, then why the hell's Yusu keeping a lid on it? Why cover for that asshole? Ryuji snapped before stomping his foot again. Kitagawa-kun did say that he owed his life to Mataram for being taken in, Anne pointed out, causing Ryuji to wince. But still, if Mataram took him in as a child, then their relationship is still deeper than the others, Makoto added. Concern crossed her face. Still, he was among the portraits. Even if they are close in a sense, Mataram's still using him for his own ends. That reminds me. While we toured the exhibit, there was this one painting that Kitagawa-kun acted really strange around, said Anne. It was a beautiful piece, but he was avoiding it like the plague. Maybe that was plagiarized, too. So what's the call, hero? Is this enough to target Mataram now? Ryuji asked as all eyes fell on his junior. Izuku's hand was already tapping his chin as he mulled this over. If he had one of his notebooks he'd probably be scribbling in it right now. I think it is, but we should confirm it all before we jump in, Izuku suggested, looking back up at Ryuji and the others. We should find some solid evidence from Kitagawa-san himself. He's the only pupil left, so he might know the most about it. Why bother? Isn't this all the evidence we need? Morgana shook his head. Well, this is all pretty damning, we still don't know enough about Mataram. We need to know how deep this goes and what exactly he's doing, especially since it involves Kitagawa. They're right. If you guys charge into this museum carelessly, you might end up making a target of just some old man with nothing to show for it, Makoto added. I'll contact Kitagawa-kun. Since I did promise to model for him, he might just feel more inclined to talk, Anne said, a bit of dread coloring her face. You all better come with me. I'd be too nervous going alone. Oh, of course, Panther. We'll help so you don't feel too alone doing it, Izuku nodded, hoping to ease her worries. Well, if you guys think it's best, I won't argue. Gives us a chance to prep until we get confirmation from Yusuke, at least, Ryuji shrugged in agreement before grinning at the others. Still, a world-renowned artist, huh? This might be tougher than Kamoshida. I'm sure his ego is way bigger. And this will be our first job as official Phantom Thieves. We're gonna succeed no matter what. You know, I've been thinking about it, said, her hand looped in the hanging rail of the train car. After finishing their business at Mataram's palace, the group was ready to head home. Now this might just be some extreme thinking, but if an evil person isn't causing trouble now, should we really be stepping in? Well, I guess you got a point. What do you guys think? Ryuji asked, looking at Izuku and Makoto, the former standing next to him with the latter seated in front of them. I don't think that's okay, said Izuku. Even if he has stopped recently, he's still hurt a lot of people. If the people in the portraits were all his pupils who all suffered under him, then he shouldn't be allowed to get away with it. I don't disagree, but these kinds of crimes do have statutes of limitation on them. While Mataram does deserve to be punished for what he's done to others, Kitagawa-kun's livelihood should also be considered, said Makoto. He seemed genuinely fond of Mataram. And right now, he's the only remaining pupil. Izuku's jaw clenched. So in the end, we should leave it up to Kitagawa-san whether it's worth pursuing. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. The guy's pretty old, and it doesn't look like he's gonna have any more students anytime soon, Ryuji sighed, scratching the back of his head. I dunno. If it were me, I'd never forgive that bastard. Like they said, it really does rely on how deep their relationship is. Sure, Kitagawa might be getting exploited by the old man, but if he is volunteering it rather than being forced to do so, is it really up to us to stop him? said Morgana. Still, I can't say I disagree with you. How much can you forgive in that kind of situation? Well, we won't know until we talk to Kitagawa-san about it again. Izuku looked out the window to see their transfer approaching. We can figure out the rest from there. Yeah, good point. No use tripping over it now, Ryuji nodded, tugging his book bag tighter against his shoulder as the train started to slow to a stop. The group filed together, stepping off the train once the doors slid open. Well, setting aside our possible target for now, this was certainly an interesting first day as a would-be member of the team, Makoto said, turning back to the others and smiling gratefully. Thank you guys again for letting me come along. So, what do you think? Ready to join the gang, Naojima-san? Morgana asked, peeking his head out of Izuku's bag. Makoto turned her gaze aside and pushed a strand of hair behind her ear. Well, I can't say I'm not interested in how this is developing, come on, Koto-san. I know I was reluctant to take you into the palace, but that was because I wasn't sure if it was wise to dive into it with you so soon. Izuku declared, his eyes glittering. If you join us now, it'd really help us out. We'll make sure you're properly prepared before the next time we go in, too. Makoto felt a pang of guilt as she surveyed the nods and smiles the others gave her. But she squashed those feelings and flashed her best smile and nodded. Well, I suppose if you're going to twist my arm, I can't really say no, can I? She said with a chuckle. Count me in. All of the tension in her shoulders vanished as the rest of the Phantom Thieves cheered. Alright, then. Starting tomorrow, we'll begin work on getting our last bit of info on Madaram from Kitagawa-san. It will be our final confirmation on whether we're going to target him, Izuku reminded the others. Anne nodded. I'm still a bit nervous about modeling, but if it's for the team, I'll keep my cool. We'll be there with you, so don't sweat it, Ryuji chuckled, patting her on the shoulder. I doubt that there's any sort of agenda behind his offer, so try not to think too much about it, Makoto offered in comfort. Hopefully he won't mind that we're all there. But I'm sure he'll do what he can to make sure Anne-senpai stays happy, Izuku said as he watched the approaching train. Oh, and we'll add you to our group chat, Koto-san. We usually discuss plans and whatever else there. Thanks. I'll do everything I can to help. I was under the impression that only you would be coming, Takamaki-san. Anne swallowed a lump in her throat, giving a faint smile as she looked at her friends seated neatly together by the wall. Well, I was just nervous. Wouldn't you be with just the two of us here? Plus, we're here to keep an eye on you, Ryuji added, scratching the fabric on his chest. So don't go trying anything pervy, K. Ryuji's bluntness could be grating, Anne appreciated him saying it straight out for her. Stop making such odd assumptions. I have no interest in her as someone of the opposite sex, Yusuke scoffed. Anne stared wide-eyed at the artist. Huh? Is there a problem? Somehow that rubbed her the wrong way. No, not really. She took a seat on the stool provided for her, assuming a thinker's position with one leg crossed over the other. Satisfied, Yusuke situated himself in front of his easel, picking up the palette close by and touching the edge of his brush with paint. Well then, let's get started. Anne's pose made it hard for her to look at Yusuke, barely making him out at the corner of her eye. She could tell he began, at least, due to the silence and the soft strokes she could just make out. Hey, silence was her only answer. Kitagawa-kun. Nothing. You hear her? Ryuji's voice was loud enough that Yusuke had to have heard it. But again, nothing but silence. Oh, I think he's too focused, said Makoto. I hadn't thought about what would happen in this case. He's so dedicated to his painting that he's blocking everything else out, Izuku mumbled. So what do we do? Anne asked. She didn't dare move. Yeah. Wasn't the plan to catch him off guard and make him spill his beans? Morgana's muffled voice asked from Izuku's bag. Considering that we're having this full conversation without him noticing, I think we'll just have to wait, Makoto sighed in resignation. What an effing pain in the ass, Ryuji grumbled. Anne definitely agreed on that part. She was hoping that they could have cut her modeling short when they started questioning Yusuke. Well, if that's the case, perhaps I should try scouting around. Morgana said, his voice clear enough that Anne guessed Izuku let him out. Well, it didn't look like Madaram was here, but be careful either way, their leader suggested. Of course. Espionage is just another one of my specialties. With that, Anne could hear the small thud as Morgana leapt from Izuku's lap. She couldn't help but feel jealous. While he scurried off to find some dirt, she was forced to sit unmoving until Yusuke was done. Well, nothing I can do about it. Besides, how long should it take to paint a single portrait? Long. Hours long. Izuku, Ryuji and Makoto wearily shuffled in their seats, browsing their phones for some form of distraction from the long wait. At one point, Ryuji tried to get Yusuke's attention again, but only to receive the same reaction, or lack thereof, as before. Anne had it the worst, unable to move from her spot while he was still painting. Yusuke suddenly sighed, the group snapping their attention up to see the artist hunched over with his elbows on his knees. Are you done? Ryuji asked, unable to hide his impatience behind his grin. It's no good, the artist lamented. What? The spectators shouted. I'm sorry. Is it me? No, not at all. It's just I'm having trouble focusing today, Yusuke explained, setting his painting tools to the side. You were? Izuku and Makoto asked unceremoniously. I'm sorry, but we'll have to pick this back up another time. What? Oh, hell no. Ryuji shot up from his seat. We've been waiting for hours, man. Makoto and Izuku looked at one another with some uncertainty before getting up from their seats as well. Sorry, but we had another reason for seeing you today. We really needed to talk to you, Anne explained apologetically. Kitagawa-san, I hate to bring this up again, but it's about the rumors regarding Madaram, Izuku began. We know that by now it might seem apathetic to bring it up, but this is important. This again, Yusuke growled, rising to his feet as he prepared to lash back. That painting at the exhibit, you're the one who actually painted it, right? Anne asked before he could start. That's the artist winced, turning his head away from them and bringing a hand up to his chest. Despite wanting to dismiss the claim, it was obvious that Yusuke had been caught. I knew it, Anne said, taking his reaction as a yes. Your sensei is seriously messed up. He just thinks of his pupils as tools, Ryuji spat, only for Makoto to place a hand on his shoulder to placate him. So you really did know about the plagiarism, Kitagawa-kun. Not only that, but you've allowed him to use your art as well. Why is that? Makoto asked. I don't know what you're talking about, Yusuke answered. Ryuji took a step forward. Bullshit, man. Your sensei's just stealing work from his students because he doesn't give a damn about him. Stop trying to hide it from us. Our Ryuji-senpai, enough, the faux blonde hesitated as he looked at his leader. All we want is the truth, Kitagawa-san. Why are you helping Madaram despite the plagiarism? You can't turn against him, can you? If you tell us everything, I'm sure we can help you out, Anne offered. Yusuke's eyes glazed over the group in front of him, releasing a deep breath in resignation. Just stop it. I'll admit, it's just as you all say. We are our sensei's artwork. Don't misunderstand me, though. I offered my ideas to him myself. It can't be called plagiarism. Sensei's just suffering from artist's block right now. But dude, still. Ryuji exclaimed. Kitagawa-san. From what Anne senpai said, you weren't happy to have that painting in his exhibit, the artist winced again. Are you really okay with this? Yeah, and what about the other pupils? Where you sticking around? Ryuji stomped his foot on the ground. They all left because of what he's doing. Where you sticking around? What's wrong with a pupil helping out his master? Yusuke demanded. The group recoiled at his sudden increase in volume. Having that painting there was unfortunate, but if it meant helping sensei, I was willing to part with it. There are no victims here. Stop pushing your self-centered righteousness on me. But what about his other pupils? Makoto asked as Yusuke turned to her. What about what they suffered? Yusuke went silent, his fist tightening at his side. He went back to his seat, sitting down and glowering at the group in contempt. Don't ever come here again. If you do, I'll sue you all for causing a disturbance, Yusuke growled. I invited Takamaki-san here, but I do not recall inviting the rest of you over. Hold it. We're not done, Ryuji started, only for Makoto to put a hand on his chest. Stop it. Don't forget Midori's situation. Makoto hissed. Ryuji's mouth slammed shut, but Yusuke didn't seem convinced. Fine. If you won't stop, then you leave me no choice, he whipped his phone out of his pocket. I'm calling the police. Wait. That won't be necessary. Anne quickly said in a panic, shoving Ryuji's shoulder back toward the door. We won't cause any more trouble. Izuku agreed, shaking his head. Getting the police involved was the worst thing that could happen to him right now. Yusuke's eyes narrowed as his gaze drifted over them. Fine, I won't report you. Under one condition. What's that? Anne asked, swallowing a lump in her throat. I want you to continue being my model, Yusuke said, looking directly at Anne with a smile. Why you do? But you said it didn't work out today. That's because I was being unconsciously modest for your sake, Yusuke admitted. The group raised a brow. However, I no longer have anything to worry about. If you're willing to bear everything to me, I am willing to pour my heart and soul into creating the greatest nude painting ever. What? Ryuji, Izuku and Makoto blurted out, the green-haired teen's face turning a shade of pink at the mere mention of it. And nude, Anne stammered out, the one word throwing her through a loop. Ah, to think that I would be able to create a nude painting with my most ideal model, Yusuke sang, though it seemed to be an expressed thought more than directed at the others. Patching himself, he cleared his throat before turning to the others. Of course, you three will not be allowed in, and I ask that you forget about our discussion today. I might make an exception for Naijima-san to ease Takamaki-san's worries. That aside, I need to work on this piece soon and submit it to sensei, or else there will be inconveniences. And then nude, Izuku stuttered. His eyes bulged out of their sockets while the film of sweat on his hands and face turned into steam. "SN snap out of it, Midori," Makoto said, shaking his shoulders to try and wake him up. "Do you mean nude as in no clothes at all? How did we escalate to that?" Anne cried in despair. "Because, those are my terms," Yusuke said, a pleasant smile on his face. Wait, ain't that bad?" Ryuji blurted. "Why yes. That's blackmail. Why you can't just do that, Kitagawa-kun," Makoto argued, her hand still on Izuku's shoulders as tried to shake him out of his stupor. "Well, I suppose if you'd rather me report you, I can. But that's. As I'm sure you'd rather I don't do so, we'll settle on Takamaki-san acting as my nude model," Yusuke said, a smile of anticipation stretching across his face. "Don't worry, sensei spends his afternoon at the exhibit while it's going, so we can use this place freely. I should buy more art supplies. Will you give me a second here? Of course, I'm willing to wait. I'll make plans according to your schedule. But please, come before the exhibit ends." "No, that's not what I mean. Why are you not listening? Sensei will be returning home soon. We're done for today. Takamaki-san, I'll be waiting for you to contact me." No. We are not done talking here. Hey what should we do?" Ryuji whispered to Makoto and Izuku. "At this point I really don't know," Makoto admitted, her right eye wincing in defeat. "We'll have to retreat for now," Izuku managed to sputter out. He'd spontaneously combust if this conversation continued any longer. "Yeah damn it, he got us good this time," Ryuji relented. "And no. Come on. You guys can't give up that easily," Anne complained helplessly. "He's totally out of his mind. I'm totally going to have to pose nude if this keeps up." "See, calm down, Takamaki-san. I'm sure we can figure a way out of this," Makoto tried to reassure her. The team had left the shack and were now loitering around on the nearby sidewalk. "How dare that Yusuke?" Morgana growled from inside Izuku's bag. "From the way he was putting it, it's not gonna be semi-nude but full-on nude," too, Ryuji grumbled. "Our Ryuji-senpai, that's not really helping right now," Izuku reminded him. His face was still red hot, but he somehow managed to remain conscious. Full nudity. Lady Anne's going to." Morgana stiffened at the thought. "Drop it," Anne snapped. "You know, you won't have to worry about that so long as we change Madaram's heart before the exhibit ends," said Ryuji. That was enough to get everyone back on track. "But Kitagawa-kun thinks he owes his life to him. Is there really a need to do that?" Anne reasoned. Morgana gasped. "So you're okay with bearing it all, Lady Anne?" "I am not. Look, Madaram's no different from Kamoshida. He's just using Yusuke because he's got no parents," Ryuji snarled. "You're telling me we should just ignore how he's being treated horribly like the other pupils?" "No, it is frustrating to leave it like this, even if Kitagawa-kun is okay with it himself," Anne sighed, scratching the top of her head. "Ryuji-senpai is right. Madaram hurt so many people. Now he's abusing the trust Kitagawa-san has in him for his own gain." Izuku's eyes narrowed in thought. "It might seem like we're meddling, but maybe that's just what we have to do. His whole future could be taken away with all of his art being put under Madaram's name." "I agree. Just because Kitagawa-kun doesn't see it that way, he is a victim in this," Makoto said, looking at the others. "We can't just let this go." "Yeah. Madaram's exactly the kinda guy we've been waiting for. And maybe, if we can convince Yusuke to come to his senses, too," Ryuji said, resolved in the matter. "Before he becomes a victim like us." With a resounding agreement from the others, the thieves broke off for the day and headed home. Ring come on, your friends can wait a bit. We'll just go over the basics, then I'll let you go." Izuku couldn't help but give a sheepish laugh, nodding as he was forced to ignore his ringing phone. After the group had split off and headed home, Izuku was met with a strangely eager Sujiro the moment he stepped foot in LeBlanc. After allowing Izuku an hour of rest, Sujiro asked him to join him behind the bar that night, hoping to show him the ropes for working in the cafe. "Alright, so to start, let's get the most important aspect of your job out of the way. Making coffee," Sujiro said, handing Izuku an apron. "Put this on. I doubt we'll do much, but might as well be prepared just in case." "Okay. So do you want me to try making a cup?" Izuku asked, looking at the steaming beakers on the counter. "Not yet. Well, I'm sure coffee making looks easy. I'm pretty particular about what I serve." Sujiro crossed his arms over his chest. "This may not be the busiest shop around, but I certainly take pride in my coffee. That's why I won't have you making anyone coffee until you've gotten the hang of it. You serve a bad cup to anyone and I'll have your ass on a silver platter." "Got it. See crystal clear." Izuku quickly nodded, a bead of sweat trailing down his face. "I hadn't realized how serious he was about the coffee. I suddenly feel really nervous about this." Sujiro chuckled. "Oh, come on. Don't get so tense. We haven't even started. I have to say though, Sakura-san definitely does right by his coffee." The voice came from a middle-aged woman sitting in a booth with a plate of curry and a cup of coffee in front of her. It goes so well with the curry, I can't help but order the set. I understand that too. I've had the two together a few times now. I never would have thought they'd go so well together before, Izuku smiled at the woman. Heh. What can I say? Each meal is tailored to the taste of each person, Sojiro beamed with pride. Oh, can you tell me the ingredients, Sakura-san? I'd love to try and cook this up at home, the woman asked hopefully. Sorry, but that's a trade secret. But you're welcome to guess from the taste alone, Sojiro apologized with a gentle smile. This woman let out a playful huff. Cheapskate. Being so secretive with your recipe even though your food's already stolen my heart. Apologies. Why not end the meal with dessert, though? It's only 300 yen. Well, alright. Since I'm already in this deep, I suppose, the woman said, her voice coy despite her supposed hesitance. Coming right up. Izuku watched Sojiro serve the woman her final dish with awe. Perhaps the woman was a regular customer and this was normal, but Sojiro sure knew how to lay on the charm when he wanted someone back. Have a good night, ma'am, Sojiro said, waving as the woman took her leave. Once she was out the door, Sojiro turned back to Izuku as stern as ever. Here's another thing to remember. When you run a shop, you'll get customers of all sorts. Knowing their personalities is absolutely vital. That's what being in food service is all about. Gee, got it. I've gotta write this down in a spare notebook later. Before Sojiro could continue, the cafe's doorbell chimed as the glass door swung open. Welcome, Sojiro hesitated, Izuku seeing his eyes widen in alarm as he stared at the man in the door. The newcomer was a plump man wearing a black jacket and a navy blue baseball cap that poured shade over his eyes. Hello there. It's been quite a while, Sakura-san. The man said cheerily. I heard you set up a shop, so here I am. Though it wouldn't have hurt to inform me, you know. The man wore a plastic smile as he glanced around the shop before looking back at Sojiro. The location's great. Right next to the station and everything. Your order? Sojiro asked. There was an edge to his voice that Izuku couldn't ignore. The tension in the air was thick enough to choke someone. What, no small talk. That's cold, the man laughed it off, grinning as if Sojiro had made a joke. Oh, but this smell's still making that curry, huh? Still haven't gotten over her, I see, your order, sir? Sojiro asked again. Her. Izuku wondered, eyes trailing to Sojiro curiously. Haha, so pushy. It's alright though, I just popped in to say hi. I'll be back soon though, don't worry. Bye for now. The man laughed and waved as he took his leave. Once the coast was clear, Sojiro breathed a sigh of relief and rubbed the back of his head. Where the hell did he catch wind of this place? Is everything alright, Sakura-san? Izuku couldn't help but ask, concern crossing his face. Just fine, don't worry about it, Izuku winced as Sojiro cast his gaze on him. Sorry about that. Things are complicated between me and that guy. That's all I'm going to say about it. Oh okay, he certainly seems suspicious enough, so I'll leave it alone, Izuku agreed. The cafe owner chuckled. Well, you're not wrong about that. At least you can pick up on that much, straightening his apron, Sojiro's expression became all business. But if you have time to talk, you have time to learn about bean types in coffee. You're not gonna be much use to me if you don't learn the ABCs about making this stuff, got it? Why yes, sir. I'll do what I can. Heh. That's more like it. Besides, this could be good for you. I'm guessing you have a hard time talking to girls, so maybe this will give you an edge. Girls like a guy who can make a good cup of coffee, after all. You knew I'm bad with girls. Anyone could have guessed that much. Though I'd say your little talk with the doctor was a dead giveaway, Sojiro chuckled, Izuku paling as he recalled his first meeting with Takemi. Well, women aside, I'll do my best to hammer this stuff into you. That way I'll be able to kick back and relax while you work. I'll do my best to learn. Thank you, Sakura-san, Izuku nodded in acceptance. If this is what it took to pay him back, he was willing to do it. Smash the chains shattered in Izuku's ear, pulling him away from his musings without warning. He couldn't help but sigh when he saw the supposed level up of their bond. Izuku still felt a smile spread across his lips. What was once a shaky relationship was beginning to evolve into something more. Boss certainly didn't miss a beat when teaching you, huh? Morgana chuckled, watching as Izuku plopped onto his bed next to him. Yeah. He was really strict about the beans, too. I hadn't realized just how many different flavors and types of coffee there was. It really is a world of its own, Izuku sighed, leaning forward on his knees tiredly. Ring ring, sounds like you don't get to rest yet. I guess not. They were texting in the chat for a while, too. Sakura-san almost tossed my phone away, Izuku laughed humorlessly as he thought back to the barista's threat. Entering his passcode, Izuku glanced through the messages to see that the others had been chatting for quite a while. Koto-san. Just checking in to make sure that my invite to the group chat worked. Ryuji. All good. Ann. Same here. Kodo-san. Strange. Where's Midori? Ryuji. Usually he answers. Must be busy or sleep in. Ann. We had a long day already. I hope he's not pushing himself too hard after all that. Kodo-san. Indeed. Though that does seem to be a problem of his. Izuku couldn't help but laugh sheepishly. It was kind of funny to see that they were talking about him while he wasn't there. Kodo-san. Setting aside Midori's knack for overworking, I just want to say thank you all again for having me as part of the team. I'll do my best to keep from holding you all back. Ryuji. Don't sweat it. We're happy to have you. Ann. That's right. The more help we can get, the better. We're counting on you, Naijima-senpai. Kodo-san. And I'll be counting on all of you. Izuku was happy to see that Makoto was getting along with the others. But that thought was shoved aside when he read Ryuji's latest messages. Ryuji. So get this, there's a rumor going around about one of Madaram's past pupils. Apparently they off themselves after not being able to speak up about what Madaram's stealing his work. Images of Shiho flashed before Izuku's eyes. He quickly shook his head and started punching his keyboard with his thumbs. Izuku. What? That's terrible. Ryuji. There you are. But yeah, I thought the same. I ain't sure if it's completely true, though. Ann. I hope it's not. But some of the rumors I've seen online really don't help Kodo-san. We should do a bit more digging to verify such claims. That is a very hefty accusation. Ryuji. Ain't any news articles or anything on it, I bet it was covered up. Izuku had to give that some thought. Suicides were not uncommon in Japan, and if what Nakanohara said was true, then it wasn't impossible to say that cutting him off completely would keep his death from linking back to Madaram in the first place. Izuku. It's not impossible Madaram wouldn't have to do much to keep it from getting out. Ann. I wonder if Kitagawa-kun knows anything about it. Ann. It'd be great if he can help us out. Ryuji. Ain't that asking a bit much? Ryuji. He's gonna be pretty on edge with us after today. Izuku couldn't disagree with Ryuji there. Ryuji. Well, anyway, Madaram's still a piece of crap. Ryuji. Let's meet up tomorrow on the school rooftop like usual. Kodo-san. Actually, I'd advise against us meeting up there. Kodo-san. Plenty of students know it's your hangout. And since I'm still pretending to seek you all out for Kabeikawa, it wouldn't be wise for me to constantly meet you all up there either. Izuku hadn't thought about that. It had actually been some time since they met on the roof after the Kamoshida incident. But they couldn't risk getting caught. Ryuji. Crap. Guess we're gonna have to move the hideout then. Considering our line of work, I think it'd be wise for us to constantly move our hideout anyway. It would be suspicious to meet in the same place too much, after all, Morgana said as he looked over the messages. Where should we move it to, though? Oh. Izuku snapped his fingers before beginning to type. Izuku. Morgana-san said that we should keep our hideout moving, anyway. So for now, let's meet up on Shibuya's upper floor. We have to take the train over to Madaram's anyway. Ann. Oh, good idea. From there we can just jump into his palace whenever we need to. Kodo-san. I agree. It should make for a good temporary spot. Ryuji. Alright then. After school at the station hall then. See you guys there. Ann. See you guys tomorrow. Kodo-san. Same. Good night, everyone. Izuku. Good night. Izuku locked his phone up and sighed before looking down at Morgana. Well, I think that's enough for tonight. I'm going to be ring. Izuku blinked when he heard his phone chime this time, indicating a call rather than a text. Holding it up, he looked to see Miss Hima's name across the front. Letting his surprise pass, Izuku quickly answered. Hello. Miss Hima-senpai. Yo. Sorry to disturb you, but I figured this was something I should tell you over the phone instead of text. It's fine. Is something wrong? Izuku asked, scooting further back into his bed and pulling the blankets up. Not really wrong, but definitely interesting. You know that target that the thieves took down not too long ago for a change of heart? Well, he actually contacted Shiho and me on the fan site. Izuku raised a brow, holding his phone out and putting it on speaker for Morgana to hear. I see. What did he want? He actually wanted to make a request to change someone else's heart, too. But the problem is that he feels if he posts it on the fan site, it'll bring him some trouble. Instead, he wanted to see if he could meet with the Phantom Thieves to go over the details personally. I see. Izuku and Morgana shared a knowing look. But just so we're clear, Miss Hima-senpai, what's his name? His name is Nakanohara. Apparently, his target is a really terrible person. Nakanohara's throat clenched as he took careful, measured sips from a cup of bargain bin coffee. It had the taste and consistency of battery acid, but it was all he could afford. His eyes twitched left and right, looking for the contact provided by the Phantom Thief aficionado website's administrator. They hadn't given him any specific details, only instructing him to wait for them inside Shibuya Station. Nakanohara had no doubt that anyone who saw him might have suspected some sort of shady business. Considering who he was meeting with, he supposed that wouldn't be incorrect. He shifted in place. He felt exposed standing here by himself on Shibuya's ground floor. Natsuhiko Nakanohara. The office worker jumped when he heard a quiet voice whisper his name. He gazed around but didn't see anyone was addressing him. He began to creep toward the corner. Don't move. We can talk like this." The voice sounded male, but it was young and seemed just as nervous as he was. Couldn't belong to anything older than a high schooler. Still, Nakanohara obeyed, gluing his back against the wall and not daring to look back. Okay. Are you the one I'm supposed to meet?" "Yes. You wanted to request a change of heart in someone?" "Why yes, that's right. I'm sure you've heard the name before." Nakanohara swallowed the lump in his throat. "The man I'd like you to target is the traditional Japanese artist, Ichirisai Madaram." Nakanohara waited for some sort of answer, but heard no response. Unsure, he continued. "I was once one of his pupils. I was given lodging at his home, where I only thought about art. I truly had a passion for it. I was a student alongside another who was my senior by several years. Our sensei kept tabs on him. Of course, Madaram claimed all of our works as his own." Nakanohara took a deep breath. "Eventually, it was all just too much for my senior to take. In the end, he committed suicide." Nakanohara heard the smallest gasp. It relieved him to hear his words did not fall on deaf ears. "I'm sure he couldn't bear to watch his work praised under Madaram's name. We all felt the same, but I suppose it was more than he could handle. After that happened, I finally decided to quit my time under Madaram and leave his atelier for good. He tried to beg me to stay, but after I refused, he reached out to the rest of the art world. As such, my life as a painter was destroyed." Nakanohara pushed up his glasses as he rubbed his eyes tiredly. "I tried to just move on and get a fresh start working as an office clerk, but it was no use. In the end, I became resentful and possessive, even stalking my ex-girlfriend after breaking up. I was a mess, to say the least. So again, I ask, please, will you change Madaram's heart? Not only for me, but to also save the life of another. Another? Is someone else in danger?" His contact asked, the voice softer this time. "Yes. Madaram's only remaining pupil. Despite everything, that boy is still there. He's young, still in high school actually. He's incredibly talented, but he also owes a lot to Madaram for taking him in as a child after his mother passed. He is the perfect target." His fingers dug into the cup in his hand. "I actually spoke with him a few times back when I was still under Madaram. I asked him if it was painful to stay under Madaram as he was. You know what he told me? If I could leave this place, I would." Nakanohara hesitated for a moment before continuing. I don't have the right to request this after my own cowardice stopped me, but please, I don't want to see another suicide." His voice rose as years of desperation and longing bubbled to the surface. "I want to save this young man and this seems like the only way left. He has such a bright future ahead of him. So please stop Madaram." Nakanohara turned the corner and bowed until his head nearly touched the floor. I promise we will." Nakanohara felt relief fill him, smiling as he looked up to thank the young man. But as he lifted his head, he thought he caught the slightest glimpse of green hair disappear behind his stall. Izuku wheezed as he hunched over his knees amidst his friends. That was a lot harder than I thought. If you hadn't waited around to say that last thing to him, you probably wouldn't have had to run," said Morgana, who was leaning on his shoulder. Well, I didn't want to leave him without an answer." Izuku placed a hand on his chest. "Still, that was really nerve-wracking. I just felt like we looked really suspicious. The way you guys were talking around the corner was suspicious, dude," Ryuji said with a grin. "I'd say you performed your task well, Midori," said Makoto. "You got the information we needed. So, everyone on the same page?" Ryuji asked, looking at the others from his spot on the ground. "I'm on board. Let's do this." Anne's eyes burned furiously. "There's no way I'd let something like suicide happen. Not on my watch. And now, we know exactly how Kitagawa-kun feels. Whatever doubts we might have had before, they're gone now." Makoto gave a determined nod. "I'm ready to do this if you guys are." "I am. There's no more room for second guessing. We'll put a stop to Madaram," Izuku declared, his gaze steely as he thought of Nakanohara's heartfelt pleas. "Hell yeah. Madaram's nothing but a piece of shit preying on the weak," Ryuji exclaimed. "Alright, leader. It's your call," Morgana said, a feline smile spreading across his lips as he looked at Izuku. "What's our next move? Let's stock up on anything we need for the heist. Tomorrow, I want to head to the palace. Let's stop Madaram and save Kitagawa-san." Chapter 24, Persona 5 Ost. Hymn of the Soul, welcome back, Trickster. I see your rehabilitation has been going well. Have you grown accustomed to infiltrating palaces? Why yes, I think so, said Izuku, brow furrowing. In fact, that's why I'm here. I want to prepare for the next infiltration our team plans to make. Good. As you are, you have yet to obtain a truly acceptable number of personas. You're not utilizing the full potential of the wild card, said Igor, fingers linking in front of him. But your timing is impeccable. This is the perfect opportunity to further your rehabilitation with a test of strength. A test? Izuku repeated in wonder. What exactly do I have to do? You will bring us the personas we specify, Justine spoke up, bringing his attention to the twins. You just gotta show us the persona we ask for. Easy, right? Carolyn added. For your first assignment, we wish for you to bring us a Jack Frost, Justine began. Come on, don't start it off that easy. It should be a challenge. Carolyn cut in, tapping her baton lightly on her shoulder. Okay, I want you to bring us a Jack Frost with the ability Mabufu. Got that, inmate? I agree. Please bring us the specified persona, inmate, said Justine. Jack Frost with Mabufu. Got it, Izuku repeated, quickly nodding. This task is not mandatory. Regardless, if you fulfill it, you will be rewarded handsomely, said Igor. I see. Okay, then. Can I see the compendium then? Izuku asked. Oh, planning to get a head start on it now. Good. Let's take a look, Carolyn smiled before handing over the book to Izuku. The green-haired teen pored through the pages, rubbing his chin as he looked at the possible fusions he could make. Darn it doesn't look like I can make it right now, I'll have to check again once I get more personas. Do remember that you may also summon personas you've previously owned, Justine reminded him. Izuku's eyes shot up from the compendium. I can't, Carolyn rolled her eyes. Duh. Pay attention, would you, prisoner? I'm pretty sure we told you that last time. Did you? I don't remember, how dense can you be, inmate? Actually, we may have left that out, Carolyn, Justine said, the smugness vanishing from her twin's face. We brought up other rituals, but not the ability to summon his previous personas. What, no way. I could have sworn when he was Carolyn's cheeks turned a rosy pink. She ground her teeth together and flashed a deadly glare at Izuku. Shut up, inmate. I didn't say anything. Back on task, yes. Further in the compendium is a list of all of your previous personas, as well as the cost for bringing them back, Justine continued. Cost. He turned the pages to find the list, quickly coming upon a list of every persona currently in his possession, as well as the two he dismissed for the fusion, Pixie and Bicorn. Next to their names were set prices of yen. Wait, I have to pay real money to get them back. Carolyn's predatory smirk returned. We can't just give you your personas for free, inmate. So we thought we'd take a bit of that money you gather up while going through the palaces. But what will you guys do with the money? Does it matter? It's purely to make this an equivalent exchange. Get that into your thick skull. Carolyn snapped, smacking the dark iron bars of Izuku's cell with her baton. I guess I shouldn't have expected to be given everything, Izuku sighed, opening the compendium back up to look through the names. To his relief, summoning his older personas wasn't expensive and he still had some money to burn. I'll take both of them back. Done, Justine said, a faint blue light shining around the book. You will now be able to summon either or use them for fusion. That was quick. What about we've already taken money from your wallet, inmate? Don't worry, Carolyn giggled, causing Izuku to blanch. Oh, okay then. Izuku flipped through the pages as he mulled over the possibilities. I still can't make Jack Frost, but maybe if I fuse some more personas, I will end up with something that can make it. I'd hate to do that to them, but I can always summon them back. I have to be careful not to make any unnecessary sacrifices because I don't have unlimited income and I still have to buy medicine, inmate. Well, maybe I'll just play it by ear, fuse one pair together and see the result of it. I shouldn't fuse too many at once without checking what they could possibly make after that. If I play this right, I can give up some personas and only summon back ones like Carter. Yeah, that should work. Maybe I should also, inmate. Izuku jumped, dropping the book and clamping his hands over his mouth. His eyes darted between the twins. Carolyn was grimacing at him with disgust, while Justine merely had a brow raised curiously. All that mumbling was creepy. What the heck was that? Oh, sorry, I tend to do that sometimes. Izuku laughed sheepishly, cheeks heating up in embarrassment. I knew you were a peculiar one, inmate. Though I suppose I hadn't realized how much, Justine said, leaving her impression vague enough to make Izuku deflate. Sorry but I think I'm ready to make my fusions. Jack Frost hovered before Justine and Carolyn, the twins staring at it with some wonder before looking back at Izuku. It didn't have Mabufu at first, so I was afraid that it wouldn't have all the requirements. Thankfully, the links of the personas I fused together were strong enough to grant him more power. Izuku's shoulders sagged in relief. He had sacrificed Carter and Silky to make Succubus, which had made him a nervous wreck, thankful that he could fuse her with Pixie to make Jack Frost. His small bet ended up paying off, providing him with a strong persona without having to get rid of more than necessary. I'll also summon Carter and Succubus back. Since I gave up Jack-o'-lantern, it would be smart to get her back for her fire abilities. Plus, overall, she's stronger than it was, Izuku said, looking through the compendium at their prices. Good, they're not too much either. I definitely wanted to make sure I got Carter back, at least. Okay, Carolyn muttered, tapping the book and making it illuminate blue. So, does Jack Frost need anything else? No, I guess that we'll take it. Carolyn muttered, looking back at the persona with a small amount of disbelief. Well done making the persona so quickly, inmate. You've surpassed our expectations, Justine congratulated him. But don't get cocky. Your personas are still super weak, Carolyn spat when he saw his eyes begin to glitter. She cast her gaze away from him. She was trying to hide it from him, but Izuku could swear she was smiling. Still, I suppose you deserve some praise for finishing your penal labor in a timely manner. Yes. To further promote your growth, we shall allow you the use of a new facility, Justine declared, surprising Izuku and Carolyn with a small smile. Oh, that's great. Thank you. Izuku said, grateful to know that his effort and yen yielded results. Whoa, Justine. It's rare to see you smile, Carolyn said. Justine's smile turned into a wry smirk. What about you, Carolyn? You're the smiling one. Did something happen to make you joyful? Me? Carolyn blurted. She spared a glance at Izuku, who was still sitting cross-legged on the floor with a bemused look on his face. Carolyn gripped her baton tighter. What are you looking at, inmate? Are you laughing at us? He frantically waved his arms in the air. What? No, I swear. I'm not. I certainly hope not. As wardens, we simply feel satisfaction in seeing your rehabilitation progress. That is the extent of it. Justine declared, her single eye narrowing at Izuku dangerously. If you were to find that amusing, it would be most upsetting. I don't, I promise. Izuku crossed his arms in front of him as sweat rolled down his cheek. He shrank more and more as the twins stared at him intently for what felt like a small eternity. Very well. You seem genuine in stating so, Justine conceded, earning a relieved sigh from Izuku. Still, I can't tell if you're gutsy or a spineless wimp, Carolyn added, crossing her arms. You've made it through one palace already, but seeing you like this makes me think it was just dumb luck. Izuku hunched over in embarrassment. Sorry, moving on, we will give you the promised facility. And if you have the will to continue your penal labor, we will grant you even greater freedom in this prison. Justine continued on, bringing Izuku's attention back up. This is a deal between us, the wardens, and you, the inmate. Not that you have the right to turn it down though. Hard work is what you're meant to do, inmate. Alright. I look forward to working with you both. Smash. I am thou art I. Thou hast acquired a new vow. It shall become the wings of rebellion that breaketh thy chains of captivity. But the birth of the strength persona, I have obtained the winds of blessing that shall lead to freedom and new power. Izuku wasn't surprised to see the new bond form. Justine had made it rather clear with her wording. Now, inmate. Onto your next task, Justine began, flipping through a notepad she held. You are to bring us Shiasa with the ability Frey. When you have it, speak with us again. Since you seem so good at it, get to it. Stop wasting time, Carolyn huffed, placing her hands on her hips. Understood. Once I've gathered more personas, I'll be sure to look out for it, Izuku nodded, standing up from his seat on the ground. I'll be going now. I've got a few other things to do before today's over, but the twins took a step back when Izuku turned back around and gave them a deep bow. I know it's your job, but thank you for your help. Knowing I can keep growing stronger with my personas and my friends, it's really important to me. Izuku straightened out and beamed at them both. Thank you. Carolyn and Justine gawked at him for a moment before the more rowdy of the two scowled at him, even with a faint blush on her cheeks. Whatever, inmate. Your gratitude isn't necessary. If you're done here, just get out. She exclaimed. Izuku rubbed his head sheepishly as he turned to leave again. Alright. Well then, I guess I'll see you later, he muttered before his body faded out of the room. I swear, the nerve of that guy, Carolyn grumbled, crossing her arms and tapping her foot anxiously. It seems to me that you were quite pleased to hear him say that, Carolyn. Shut up. No, I wasn't. Why, you're one to talk. Perhaps, Persona 5 asked. Butterfly kiss, you're certainly buying a lot today. Why yeah, I've got a few things in school coming up. I want to be as prepared as possible. Izuku put on a nervous smile. He was sitting in Takemi's office, the doctor sitting cross-legged in a desk chair across from him. I see. Well, it's none of my business. But since you're here, why don't we do a clinical trial? Takemi suggested, offering a thin smile as she leaned back in her chair. I've made a few adjustments to the medicine from last time. What are right now, he paled. His stomach churned at the thought of his first experience alone. Maybe next time I don't want to feel like that right before my exams. Well, if you say so, Takemi shrugged, spinning her chair back to her desk. Then I suppose you can go without the medicine until you're ready. What? Heh. Sorry, kid. I'm a little eager to try out this medicine and would like to test it as soon as possible, and I need my special guinea pig to do that, Takemi explained, giving him a side glance with a devious smirk. So, what's it going to be? Izuku slumped over in his chair. The doctor had him right where she wanted him. It had been some time since he came in for an actual clinical trial. He'd mainly done menial work on his last few visits while she worked out the kinks in her drug. Izuku gingerly nodded. Okay, let's do it. Good boy. Keep this up and I'll give you a lollipop when we're done. Takemi got up and grabbed a full beaker from a nearby medical stand and held it out to him. Don't worry, your reaction to the drugs won't be quite as strong as last time. As I said, I've made various adjustments. Izuku's hands trembled as he slowly took the cup from her. He stared at the viscous blue liquid sloshing around inside with hesitation. Takemi eyed him expectantly. Just drink it down in one gulp. You'll be fine. The green-haired teen took a deep breath before taking one long swig of the medicine. The slimy concoction was many times more bitter than Sajiro's darkest espresso as it crept down his throat. He tried to get it down as fast as he could, but the taste infested every corner of his mouth. His lips puckered as a strangely citrus and metallic aftertaste replaced it. It's so sour and bitter at the same time, and whatever it is, it's filling my nose with that horrible smell. Whatever was in it hit Izuku like a brick. His head spun and his stomach clenched as though he'd ridden one too many roller coasters. Unable to take it, Izuku let his body fall to the side in the bed. His vision swam and blurred before he finally blacked out. Izuku woke with a groan, his nausea slowly subsiding. Oh good, you're waking up. You should be proud, you didn't black out nearly as long this time, said Takemi. She was writing notes on a clipboard with her back to him. Your reaction to the drug was absolutely perfect. Do you still feel a bit dazed? I mixed in a few special components. You wanted that reaction? Izuku asked groggily. He struggled to push himself up to a sitting position. That's right. Otherwise, the medicine wasn't potent enough for what I'm attempting. Takemi spun around in her chair, leaning forward on her knees. Okay, take your shirt off. I need to take your blood pressure and temperature. I'll also have to draw some blood. Those last two sentences woke Izuku up immediately. Hey, all that, come on, you're past the worst of it. I'd asked to perform some motor skills tests, but I doubt that you're up to the task right now, Takemi said, waiting for him patiently. Izuku groaned, moving to pull his shirt off. So you are here. Izuku and Takemi looked up to see a police officer walked inside. Izuku's jaw clenched. Was the officer here for Takemi or him? Somewhat thankfully, his attention seemed to be focused on the doctor. I'm in the middle of an examination, officer, said Takemi, her expression weary. And as I've told you before, you need to show me a warrant if you want to investigate me. HMPH. I'm here because we received a report. The officer puffed his chest out as if he thought it made him look tougher. I'll need to see a detailed record of medical expenses and full medical records. I bet you didn't have enough time to hide any incriminating documents, huh? Izuku looked at Takemi with worry, but she didn't look impressed in the slightest. Must be under orders from the medical chief of staff, she sighed, sparing a look at her nails before motioning to a page posted on her computer. Alright, here you go. Huh? The officer grunted, peering down at the screen in confusion. This kid is my only patient today. I'm guessing that you were sent here based on an improper billing claim. Takemi asked, the cop giving himself away as he tensed. But without a receipt, I'm afraid you've been sent on a wild goose chase. What's going on here? You're being manipulated, she said bluntly. That report is fictitious. What the officer blurted, looking completely dumbfounded and embarrassed. His eyes finally shifted to Izuku, looking for one last escape from the humiliation. Hey, you. What are you doing here? I'm just here for a migraine. Izuku lied far faster than he ever thought he could. I could get into so much trouble. A migraine. The officer repeated, floundering where he stood. That's right. He's stressing over his school activities, so I'm giving him some medication to help him relax. A mocking smile crossed her features. As the officer looked to the side in embarrassment, she sent Izuku a wink in appreciation. So, is there anything else? As you can see, I'm pretty busy here. HMPH fine, the officer conceded, crossing his arms and pouting like a schoolboy. You're infuriating, you know that. But what else can I expect from the plague? Izuku's jaw fell a little as Takemi went silent. But the officer didn't push his luck any further, turning tail to leave. The two waited for the familiar tone of the closing elevator doors to breathe again. I'm so over this, Takemi said with a sigh. That didn't seem good at all, Izuku said, looking at the doctor with concern. He wanted to push the subject but knew better than to invade her privacy. Takemi would shut him down in a heartbeat. Are you okay? Oh, I'm fine. I'm just tired of this game they keep playing. Takemi shot him an appreciative smile. Thanks. And not just for asking, but for helping make him look stupid. Oh, right, I just didn't want to get you in trouble, Izuku said, rubbing the back of his head awkwardly. I've dealt with cops like that before. I see. One mystery after another with you, huh? She chuckled. Not that I'm much better. It was likely just my former superior. You know, the one you saw when you eavesdropped on us. Izuku winced at the mention of his blunder. Well, it's nothing to be concerned about. Now, back to what we were doing. We're still taking tests. I'll just draw some blood for now and send you off. You might feel anemic and lightheaded, but you'll be fine as long as you drink plenty of fluids, Takemi smiled, though it did nothing to console him. It's not like I wasn't expecting this, I guess, he mumbled. He stuck his arm out and rolled up his sleeve. Good to see you're behaving like a proper guinea pig, Takemi teased, holding his arm up and inspecting it. Don't worry, once we're done here, I'll give you the medicine as promised. I'll even toss in a bit extra for the help today. Okay, then thank you. Izuku smiled. Even though he was kind of forced into the clinical trial, Izuku felt some trust growing between them after today. Smash Death Confidant. Rank 2 alright, since you're a healthy boy, I think I'll draw a bit of extra blood. Fufu, only kidding. Relax. Persona 5 asked. A woman, do we have everything we need? Izuku asked, standing in front of his team. After spending the previous day preparing, the thieves were quick to jump into Madaram's palace after school. Yup. Anne and I got us a bunch of sports drinks and snacks for when we make a rest stop, Ryuji confirmed with a grin. Great. I got a bunch of medicine and made a couple of thermoses full of coffee last night, Izuku explained, smiling at his teammates. Where did you get this kind of medicine from? Makoto asked, looking at the packs of medicine stuffed away in a shoulder bag. In place of her Shujin uniform, Makoto had donned a slim black hoodie, a pair of leggings and tennis shoes. The black bandana with eye holes cut out completed the makeshift disguise. That's not important right now, Izuku nervously laughed, earning him a suspicious glance from his childhood friend. Anyways, I think that's everything. We should be fully prepared to infiltrate the palace. Koto-san, one last time. Are you really ready for this? This won't be like last time. We're sure to run into trouble from here on. Of course. I wouldn't be here if I wasn't, Makoto nodded. I won't hold you guys back. I promise. Well, you certainly look the part now, Anne smiled, touching her chin with a thoughtful expression. Still, if we're going to be entering the palace with her, shouldn't we make up a code name? Oh, right. I remember you all referring to each other with different names last time. Correct. As phantom thieves, we shouldn't be throwing our real names around so carelessly. Especially while infiltrating a palace. We don't know what kind of effect it would have on the ruler's cognition, Morgana explained, placing his paws on his hips. I'm Mona, Ryuji is Skull, Lady Anne is Panther, and Izuku is Hero. Oh, Hero, huh? Makoto smiled at Izuku, the green-haired teen laughing sheepishly. Are you sure you didn't want to go with something like All Might Jr.? Or Super All Might? Huh? Morgana, Ryuji and Anne blurted in confusion. KK Koto-san. Izuku cried out in desperation, waving his arms in panic. I'm only teasing, don't worry, she replied through barely stifled laughter. She cupped her chin and thought once she calmed down. A codename, huh? Let me think, it's kinda hard since she doesn't have a thief outfit yet, Ryuji pointed out, scratching the top of his head. Well, if you consider her quirk and all, maybe something like Sponge. Anne offered hopefully. I don't feel so good about that one, Makoto said with a hesitant laugh. Well, your old hero name is a bit long, but Izuku trailed off before smiling. What about Queen? Queen. Makoto repeated, a small smile spreading across her lips. Huh. That's not bad. Though you wouldn't guess that from her outfit, Ryuji chuckled. I think that's a good one. How do you think of that? Anne asked curiously. Well, we used to make up hero names all the time, and Izuku started, only for Makoto to place a hand on his shoulder and laugh awkwardly. I think that's enough information, don't you? Makoto cleared her throat before looking at the others. I think Queen is perfect, though. Alright then. From now on, you'll be called Queen during infiltrations, Morgana nodded. So, any more questions before we enter the palace? Oh, I got one. Why are we already in our Phantom Thief gear if we haven't seen the palace ruler yet? Ryuji asked. Very good question, Ryuji. You're paying attention, Morgana smiled at the faux blonde. My guess would be that it's because Madaram doesn't trust anyone, so he's constantly on guard. That makes sense. He's famous, so if he lets his guard down, he might get exposed by the paparazzi, Izuku nodded. Or maybe he's just super salty about all those rumors going around about him," said Anne. "Either way, we need to proceed with caution. We shouldn't needlessly increase the security level as it will only make obtaining the treasure more difficult. Especially with our new recruit here," Morgana said before turning to Makoto. "Hopefully, you'll be able to awaken a persona in the midst of all this. I'm sure your quirk can hold up well enough on its own, but I think I speak for everyone when I say that we'd feel better if you had one." "Hopefully it won't hold me back too much," Makoto replied. "But I definitely won't let it stop me." "Alright. If that's everything, let's move. We've at least got a good point of entry, so let's begin the infiltration from there," Izuku said, earning nods of agreement from the others. With that, shadows were still scouring the courtyard, but none of them noticed the phantom thieves as they hopped across the statues overhead. Dropping through the skylight, Izuku quickly scanned the premises with his third eye active for guards lurking in the shadows. He stopped as he saw red beams of light stretching across the doorway. "Hold up," Izuku told the others as they landed next to him. "It looks like security increased a bit since we last came in. I can see infrared lasers from the security systems around the door." "What? Why are they on now? Does he know we came in?" Ryuji asked, looking at Morgana. "No. Kitagawa must have told him about what happened yesterday. He's probably becoming more wary of people now that he knows," Morgana explained, eyes narrowing at the door. "Well, with your skill, hero, we should be able to deal with the lasers just fine." "Right. Stay close, okay?" The laser closest to the floor was inactive. Seeing this, Izuku slid under the top two, waving for the others to proceed in the same way. Looking around the portrait exhibit, Izuku swallowed a lump in his throat. "Careful. All the lasers are on in here. Follow my lead closely." "Got it," they answered, the four staying close behind as he kept his third eye active. He paused when he heard faint footsteps just on the other side of the center walls. He raised a finger to his lips as he peeked around the corner. A lone shadow was patrolling the hall with its back to him. Izuku moved back, looking at the others, specifically Makoto. "There's a shadow there. We'll have to take it out to move forward. Are you ready?" Izuku asked, the others looking at her as well. The brunette took a deep breath before reaching a hand out to a nearby security system. She touched the metal, her fist and face shifted into stainless steel. "I'm ready. Let's go." Izuku nodded back, peeking around the corner again to confirm that it still had its back to them. Izuku sprung onto its shoulders before ripping its mask off, leaping back as the black ooze fell to the ground and coalesced into shadows they hadn't seen before. The shadows resembled misshapen, expressionless green dolls with cylindrical heads and a white loincloth wrapped around their waists. They each had beady-wide eyes and a yellow boomerang clutched in non-existent fingers. Persona 5 Ost. Last surprise, Skull, Panther. Hit 'em hard. Izuku ordered, both teammates acting on his order and removing their masks. Makoto gaped in awe as Carmen and Captain Kidd appeared in a burst of blue flame. "Dance, Carmen. Tear 'em apart, Captain Kidd." Fire and electricity flew through the air, the shadows recoiling back from the attacks. The fire did visible damage to one of them as it reeled back, but the one hit by Kidd's attack was almost totally unfazed. "These guys are resistant to electric damage. Proceed with caution," Morgana announced. "Fire hurts them, but it's not super effective." "Got it." Mona hit one of them with wind. Izuku reached up and peeling his own mask off. "Jack Frost. Hee-ho." The snowman persona cheered, hopping in place before unleashing a blast of ice. As he prepared to strike it, the shadow released a strange haze from its body that surrounded Ryuji before being forced back by Izuku's attack. Crap." Ryuji cried out in fear, the haze suddenly making him dizzy. He fell to one knee as the world turned upside down for him. "Skull." Anne cried, kneeling at his side as she and Makoto rushed to his aid. "See crap, I'm seeing doubles Oro, show them your might." Morgana cried out, his persona materializing before blasting a torrent of wind forward. He bore down on the shadow that resisted Ryuji's attack, but the doll flew backwards this time and didn't move from its spot on the ground. "Are you okay?" Makoto asked, looking back at Ryuji in worry. "Why yeah, just gimme a second," Ryuji mumbled, a hand on the side of his head as he tried to steady himself. "Alright, cover him, Taka Panther. I'll work on this one," Makoto said, dashing forward at the shadow. Wait, Queen. Be careful." Anne cried out in concern. Izuku grit his teeth, unable to shake his apprehension at the sight. Makoto balled her fists as she approached, watching the persona's body movement carefully. To her surprise, it moved faster than she thought something of that size and shape could, the shadow moving to clash with her. "Remember what sensei taught you, anticipate your enemy's movements." Makoto watched as the shadow reared its left arm back. She kicked off the ground as her opponent clumsily swung its stubby arm at her, launching herself into the air and narrowly avoiding a direct hit. "Hiya." She slammed a metal fist down into its head. The blow staggered the shadow as she fell to the opposite side. She landed on her feet, preparing to crack it with another blow. To her shock, the shadow was already bringing its other arm back. She winced as she put her guard up. Her body was still made of metal, so the blow was more surprising than painful. Still, it was strong enough to throw her to the floor, gritting her teeth as she looked up at the shadow preparing to club its arm down on her. Bufu. Before the shadow could land another blow, it cried out in pain as ice burst across its back, melting back into black ooze. Makoto lifted her head to see Izuku standing close by with his persona in front of him. Izuku released a nervous breath, quickly jogging over to Makoto and kneeling beside her. "Are you okay?" He extended a hand out to help her up. Makoto blinked, gaining her bearings back for a moment before slowly nodding. "Why yeah. Thanks for the save there," she said, taking his hand and pulling herself up. "Thank goodness. I saw that your quirk was still active, but I wanted to be sure." Izuku sighed in relief before looking at Anne and Ryuji. "Are you alright, Skull?" "Yeah, I'm all good. It didn't really hurt me, just made me kinda dizzy. It was obnoxious though, that's for sure. We're all good here." "I finished off the other shadow," Morgana announced, skipping over to the others. "Something to note is that those ones are weak to wind abilities. I'll be sure to hit them with that from now on." "Okay, thanks for confirming that for us." Izuku nodded before looking back at Makoto. "Are you ready to keep going?" "Why yes, I am. Just I'm sorry for what happened. I wasn't much help." Makoto sighed, feeling embarrassed after being caught off guard. "It's okay. It was difficult for all of us at first. You'll get used to it as we go," Izuku said with a smile. "You'll start to get the hang of these fights as we go on. Just remember that our enemies will get stronger and certain ones will be even fiercer than a group of smaller shadows." "Understood. I'll try to be more cautious." Makoto nodded, trying to keep it from getting to her. "Okay. Is everyone ready to keep going?" Izuku asked, looking at the others. "All good here," Ryuji nodded. "Same," Anne said. "We're ready to proceed, Hero," Morgana confirmed. "Okay, let's move," Izuku said, taking the lead again. Makoto allowed the others to take the lead, a frown spreading across her lips. "What's wrong with me? I need to clean up my act or I'll just drag them down." Izuku led them to the next room, holding a hand up as he saw another shadow lurking through the hall. He spared a look at the others to signal them to get ready. Seeing them nod, he rushed at its back before hopping up and ripping off its mask. The others quickly encircled the shadows, which took the form of red-skinned fairies with glimmering gold and lavender butterfly wings on their backs. "We've got them surrounded. Let's open fire." Makoto's jaw dropped as the thieves drew their firearms, or slingshot in Morgana's case. G-guns. Each of the fully armed thieves let a shot fly, instantly grounding the fairies who were now crawling on the floor. With their opponents downed, the four moved in closer, keeping their weapons trained on them. "We've got them all down. What do you want to do, Hero?" Morgana asked, looking up at Izuku. Alright, Shadow. If you want to survive, you should become my mask." Izuku demanded, straightening up and glowering at them as hard as he could. I don't want to die. Why don't you think about how I feel?" the shadow replied. Makoto blinking in shock as it spoke. Well, I don't want to take your life if I don't have to. That's why you should become my persona." "For a stuttery guy, you're pretty pushy, not that I hate that," the red-skinned fairy giggled before her body began to glow. "Well, I guess I wouldn't mind. My name is Wapo. I am now yours to use." A blue light enveloped the shadow before the shape of Izuku's mask. It then dispersed into energy that converged on his face and vanished. He smiled as the other shadows dispersed. "Welcome to the team. Good job, Hero. Another persona to add to your arsenal," Morgana chuckled. "I have so many questions," Makoto declared, unable to shake her odd expression as she walking over to Izuku. "I don't even know where to begin. I guess we haven't explained everything in detail, huh?" Izuku trailed off, scratching his head awkwardly. "We did kinda just show off some new stuff with that last one, huh?" Ryuji admitted, crossing his arms in thought. "So where should we start?" Anne asked. "Well, for starters, where did you all get functional firearms? Those are hard enough to get in Japan on the black market." Makoto blanched, unable to hide her disbelief. "Well, they're all technically just model guns," Izuku explained, pulling his 1911 replica and slowly handing it to Makoto. "The metaverse can be influenced by one's cognition. If the shadows think they're real, the guns will act like the real thing. So just because they think they're real, they act real." Makoto summed up, eyes lighting up with intrigue as she inspected the gun. "That's so fascinating, dangerous, but fascinating." She handed the gun back to Izuku. "Alright, that's one question answered. But what exactly did you do to that shadow?" "Oh, right. I suppose we haven't explained that fully either, huh?" Morgana placed his paws on his hips. "You see, Hero here can wield multiple personas. The ones you've seen so far aren't even his main one." Wait, really?" Makoto turned back to Izuku. So everyone else can only wield one persona, but you can wield multiple. That's right. It's some sort of blessing, I guess, that I received at random while I'm in this world, Izuku explained. I'd go into deeper detail, but I don't think we have that kind of time. We wouldn't want to get blindsided by a shadow while we're standing here. Oh, right. My mistake. It's okay. If you have any more questions, we'll try to answer them in the next safe room we find. It was obvious that this just gave her even more questions. Why, you'll see. Let's go. The group proceeded deeper into the hall, their backs close to the wall, as they remained on the lookout for more shadows. Seeing none at present, they trudged onward. Izuku guided them through another set of laser systems before arriving at the next door. Izuku ordered them to halt again, peeking around the corner to see two shadows patrolling the main lobby. Two shadows ahead. But I think we can avoid them. Are you sure? Wouldn't it be better to destroy them now? Makoto asked eagerly. We'll only waste our energy. We only fight when there's no way around an enemy, said Morgana. Oh, of course. My mistake, Makoto nodded. Alright, stay close. We'll slip past them on my go, Izuku whispered, peering inside the hall again. When the shadows turned the opposite direction, he motioned forward. They quickly slipped past the shadows with light, quiet steps. They made it into the main hall, the familiar golden statue looming above them. Alright, I think we're clear. Don't make too much noise, though, Izuku advised as he watched the door cautiously. This will be uncharted territory for us from here on out, said Anne. Remember, people. We don't need unnecessary attention. Try not to trip into any of the alarm systems or traps, Morgana said, his eyes hovering to a certain faux blonde. Why you looking at me when you say that? Come on. We should get going, Izuku waved for the others to follow as he moved to the rising path around the statue. The others fell in line next to him, scanning the next hall they entered cautiously. One end of the long corridor was blocked off by a security gate. Izuku pulled out the map they recovered to plot their next route. Looks like we'll have to take the long way around, come on, this way. They moved to the furthest end of the hall and took a left, entering a new red-walled gallery. Sparing a look around, the group silently noted the young faces in the portraits around them, understanding that it was another display of Madaram's pupils. As they moved forward, Izuku slid under another security system, his team following suit before he stopped at a left-turning corner. Just as he approached it, a shadow strolled down the path in front of them. Izuku slid to a stop, spreading his arms out to stop the rest of them. Ryuji and Anne bumped into him at the sudden pause, but they caught on and held holding their breath. The shadow didn't notice them as it turned back around and walked further down the gallery. The five collectively breathed once it was out of sight. That almost gave me a heart attack, Anne groaned. At least we still have the element of surprise. Izuku crept closer to the edge, peeking around the corner and seeing the shadow. Okay, its back is to us, I'm going in. Just be careful, Makoto mumbled, touching the security system again to absorb the metal, though this time using her opposite hand to absorb electricity running through it. Izuku nodded back before dashing down the hall, catching the shadow off guard with his speed before peeling off its mask with a hard backward tug. The body fell to the ground before erupting into two small old men with long beards. They were holding leaves above their heads. I've got this. Anne called out, drawing her mask off. Agi. Fire swirled through the air, igniting one of the shadows in flame and sending it hurling back. Alright, Panther. Izuku started, only to widen his eyes as Makoto dashed past him. Keiko Queen. Makoto nailed the second shadow across its jaw, metal humming with electrical energy as she smashed her fist into it. The shadow reeled back in pain, staggered by the blow. Seeing a chance, Makoto kept up the attack, following up with 4 strong punches to the gut that made it collapse on the floor. Makoto hopped back, giving the others an opening to hold up the shadow. Alright, they're all yours. Izuku and the others looked on for a moment before quickly drawing their guns, making sure that the shadows didn't get back up. Wait, don't. Here, take my money. They cried out in fear, throwing out coins and bills of yen for the group to take on the ground. Alright. You can go, Izuku said, allowing the shadows to scurry off. He moved to pick up the yen, raising his brow in surprise. 1,000 yen. That's pretty good. Is it really alright to let them leave like that? Makoto asked, looking at the others in confusion. Don't worry. Shadows don't make it far in those forms before dissipating back into that sludge, Morgana reassured before smiling. But I have to say, that was quite an impressive display you put on, Queen. Good job. Yeah, I didn't think you'd jump in like that. It was badass, Ryuji noted, giving Makoto a thumbs up. Looks like you're learning. If you keep that up, maybe you really won't need a persona, Anne smiled. Thanks, guys. I'm just trying to be helpful, Makoto said, allowing the metal and electricity to fade from her body. She looked at Izuku, blinking as she saw a frown on his face. Is everything alright? Huh? No, it's fine. Really, you did great," said Izuku. But she could easily hear the hesitation in his voice. Sorry, I guess I'm still worried is all, but you were always the one taking care of me before, so I guess it's no surprise you're doing fine here." Makoto felt a bead of sweat trail down her head, giving a hesitant nod. "I understand. But don't worry so much. I promise I can handle myself. If I can't, I'll speak up." "Oh, of course. Alright, let's keep moving. We've still got a long way to go," Izuku told the others, earning a resounding agreement from them. As they moved again, Makoto lingered a moment longer before breathing out. The group left the gallery without an issue, climbing up a set of glass stairs close by. It led them to another blue exhibit hall. Seeing a security office just ahead of them, Izuku slowed his pace. They approached with caution, crouching as they got closer. Izuku peeked inside at the very edge of the window, relaxing when he saw no shadows present inside. "Okay, we're clear. None in the hall either, far as I can tell," Ryuji announced, the others looking around the larger exhibit hall just ahead. Large paintings adorned the walls behind panes of protective glass on the left and right. At the center was a large golden vase sitting atop a pedestal. "Keep your guard up. Shadows can appear out of nowhere sometimes," Izuku reminded them before moving forward with the team. On the other side of the glass, they saw a shadow patrolling the paintings, but apparently paying them no mind. As they crossed the center of the room, Morgana lagged behind, eyes fixed on the vase. Hey, wait a second. You're just going to ignore that golden sheen?" Morgana asked, looking at the others in disbelief as they halted. He gazed longingly at the lustrous face. His eyes sparkled and drool trickled from his mouth as he got closer and closer to it. "I know it would be hard to take with us, but look at that luster. We could sell this baby for tons. Hey, come on. We ain't here for big treasure like that, you know," Ryuji huffed, acting as the voice of reason. "He's right, Mona. We only take treasure we can carry when we come across it," Izuku pointed out, though the cat seemed lost in the vase's reflection. "Can you actually take loot out of the palace?" Makoto asked curiously, more interested in the idea itself rather than the vase. "Yup. That's kinda how we pay for all our stuff, actually. It's been really convenient," Anne explained for her. "Though we leave a lot of the spending to Hiro. I don't think me or Skull would be that responsible with the money. Come on, maybe we try and break it up a bit. Some gold is better than none," Morgana suggested, hopping up on the pedestal eagerly. Izuku's third eye picked up a hidden mechanism just as the cat landed on it. "Gee, get back, Mona." Izuku cried out, a small clunk causing the group to widen their eyes. He managed to grab Makoto by the arm and yanked her back with him as the security system whirred to life. Infrared lasers formed a cage around the vase almost instantly, trapping Anne, Ryuji and Morgana inside. Oh no. I tripped the security." Morgana cried out. "Ugh, and you were the one telling us to be careful." Ryuji grumbled in irritation. "But what should we do now? Risk it and book it out of here?" "No, don't. You'll bring too many shadows down on us that way," Izuku called out. "Queen and I aren't caught inside the lasers. We'll figure a way to let you all out." "Oh, thank goodness. We're counting on you too," said Anne. "Yeah, please and sorry for messing up like that," Morgana sighed in embarrassment. "It's okay. That security office might have a way to turn it off." "Let's go, Queen," Izuku said, looking at Makoto. Right, the two headed back to the office they saw before, scanning the door for a way in. "Doesn't look like we'll be able to make our way in from out here. Maybe there's another way to get in." He scanned the wall for another route, his eyes landing on a gated storage box standing by the edge near the glass. Looking up, he saw a small edge that was reachable from the wardrobe. "We'll climb up here and see what we can find," Izuku said, hopping on top of the storage and climbing to the ledge, Makoto close behind. Looking at the ground inside the glass, Izuku held a finger to his lips and motioned to it. Makoto nodded, staying close behind him and quiet as she could while moving. Izuku activated his third eye and gave the room another once over. He stopped when one of the paintings lit up and the guard's footsteps coming to and fro in front of it. "I think there's something behind that painting," he whispered. "We'll have to get rid of the shadow first." "Ready?" "Yes, but I don't have anything to absorb," Makoto said looking at him with concern. "The walls here are made of plaster and won't be useful in a fight." "You're right, wait." Izuku pulled out his model gun, holding it to her. "Absorb the metal in this. It might be aluminum alloy, but it's pretty solid and should hold up well. You can use it too if you want since I have my personas." "Oh, thanks. But so long as I can use my quirk, I should be fine." She touched the metal with her fingertips before melding it with her own body. "Alright, I'm ready." "On your mark." Right, Izuku looked back at the shadow, moving into a position above it that gave him an easy shot. He hopped off, landing directly on its back and peeling the mask off with a quick jerk. As he fell back from it, Izuku widened his eyes as he saw a larger than usual shadow begin to take form. It was human in shape, but it was grotesque in appearance. Its skin was the color of freshly scattered ashes. A black leather apron fell past the knee of its one leg. It wore a bronze cap and mask that revealed a single, murderous eye with matching boots and spine on its shoulder. It held an iron hammer in one hand and a pair of blacksmithing tongs in the other. My Hero Academia est ost. Go seize it. You maggots, how dare you try and defile the magnificent Madaram's art. The shadow growled, raising the hammer above its head and swinging down at Izuku. The persona user quickly dodged to the side. He grit his teeth, watching as the ground beneath its hammer cratered. Be careful, Queen. This shadow's stronger than the ones we've faced before. Izuku warned, pointing forward with his staff as he prepared to engage. Got it. Makoto nodded, raising her right arm and allowing the metal to liquefy. She shot it forward, striking at a greater distance thanks to the extended metal, rather than entering a close-range fight. The shadow's head bucked back, but the shadow straightened out without issue. Makoto felt sweat trail down her brow at the sight. The shadow let out a blood-curdling screech. It slammed its hammer into the ground, this time on purpose. Waves erupted from the impact and rocketed toward both Makoto and Izuku. Carter. Izuku called out, touching his mask and summoning his true persona. The porcelain persona crossed its arms in front of it, eating the brunt of the attack. Even with Carter's protection, Izuku skidded backward. Makoto hardened her metallic body to take the attack head-on. As durable as her skin was, her body trembled as the shockwaves coursed through her. She couldn't hold her ground against the assault, flying into the wall behind her, the paintings shaking from the impact. Caught Queen. Izuku's eyes blazed as he narrowed his gaze at the shadow. Aiming forward, Carter put its fingers together in a flicking motion. Quantico Smasha burst of physical energy blasted forth, colliding into the shadow and sending it tumbling backwards, smashing a painting that had been propped up against the wall. Izuku felt his arm going numb, but he didn't feel any pain and could still move it just fine. He took the opportunity to run to his fallen teammate while their enemy was down. Queen. Are you okay? He asked, placing a hand on her shoulder. I'm fine, don't worry. Just a bit shaken up, Makoto groaned, shaking her head in an attempt to regain her bearings. Izuku breathed a sigh of relief before shifting his gaze back to the shadow. It peeled itself from the wall, its body hunched forward as it started staggering towards them. Taking a step forward, Izuku willed Carter to attack again. Kauha. Carter pitched a ball of light in his hand with all the speed and force of a cannonball. But the shadow ate the attack without even flinching, hovering forward with its hammer raised. Crap. Bless attacks aren't effective. Izuku cursed, raising his staff in preparation to attack. I'm going to pin it down. Hit it with whatever you can. Makoto gripped her metal fists, shaping them into pointed blades as long as her forearms. Wait, Queen. We don't. Makoto paid him no mind, rushing forward with her arms lowered at her side. As the shadow raised an arm to strike her, she sidestepped the attack before burying her makeshift claws into its leg. The shadow howled in pain as it tried to pry her off, but she would not let go. Now, hero. Izuku couldn't hesitate. With Makoto so close to it, there wasn't a moment to waste. Touching his mask, Izuku summoned Jack Frost. Bufu. Makoto released the shadow just as she felt the temperature drop around her, diving out of the way as a block of ice slammed into the ground by a falling block of ice. He had taken a chance on switching to Jack Frost, hoping alternate type of magic would be sufficient. His gamble paid off yet again as the shadow didn't move from its spot. Let's finish it off. But staff in hand, he and Makoto pounced on their hapless foe. They battered and diced the shadow to pieces in a heartbeat, watching it explode into a pile of black ooze. The duo was taking greedy gulps of air, gazing over at each other as they caught their breath. Makoto started to laugh out in relief, a warm smile crossing her lips. Well, that was a bit rough, but that wasn't too bad, huh? Izuku slowly put on a smile of his own, giving her a tired nod. Why yeah. That could have definitely gone worse. You did a good job. Thanks. Though I will admit that was more difficult than I would have guessed. Makoto straightened herself out. Now, shall we get the others out? From there on was smooth sailing. They uncovered switches behind the paintings that lowered the glass shields, freeing Ryuji and Anne from the cage. After breaking into the security room, they eavesdropped on two shadows discussing the password to the security system and were able to shut it down. Sorry about that, guys. I don't know what came over me. Morgana's eyes remained firmly glued to the ground as he skipped to safety. I can't believe I made such a rookie mistake. Even for a gold vase. Yeah, no kiddin'. You were actin' as loopy as when you saw the treasure in Kamoshida's palace. And you were the one tellin' us not to touch anything in the exhibit. Ryuji crossed his arms as he gazed down at Morgana. What got into you? I don't know, but just looking at it, I felt strangely drawn to it. That does seem really strange. Izuku walked up to the vase and tilted his head as he looked it over. Maybe there's something. He reached out and grazed it with his fingers. In that instant, the vase shattered into 100 tiny fragments. The five backed away as an enormous gem hovered where the vase once stood. What the hell, Ryuji blurted out. Is that a diamond or a shadow? Makoto asked, taking a fighting stance. Instead of rushing at them though, the diamond started to hover away. Oh, that explains it. Don't let that thing get away. Catch it. Morgana told them. Izuku jumped forward and slammed his staff into the jewel. It impacted against the ground before condensing into a pool of black ooze. From it, a pearlescent wisp that seemed to be made of liquid rose from it. It was shaped like a humanoid ghost with its tail end attached to a ruby the size of a bathtub. So it was a shadow, but why did it look like that? Anne asked, pulling her whip out as she prepared to fight alongside the others. Never mind that, for now. Let's just destroy this thing. You'll see why I wanted to pursue it, Morgana told them, the team coordinating so that they surrounded the strange shadow. If you say so. Captain Kidd. Ryuji called out, the persona hovering above him before shooting a torrent of lightning forward. He and the others blinked when it barely phased the shadow, merely causing it to shake somewhat with little to no damage. Carmen. Jack Frost. Fire and ice were dealt out one after the other, but neither had much of an effect on the shadow. It showed no visible signs of wear, but it made no move to escape or fight. What's going on with this shadow? Makoto muttered. Maybe we need brute force. Carter. Izuku exclaimed, his main persona materializing above him. Smash Carter blasted the shadow with another flick of its fingers. This seemed to do the trick, the shadow falling to the floor as the thieves surrounded it with their guns raised. Haha, wonderful, said the shadow. Go on, finish me off and claim your reward. You have earned the right to my riches. Izuku glanced over at Morgana with an utterly bewildered look on his face. This one doesn't care about dying. This shadow is different. Let's finish it off like it said. Morgana proclaimed, raising his sword. The others looked at one another before following his lead, dashing at the shadow and nailing it with a rush of strikes from their melee weapons. Almost as if it hadn't been so durable, the shadow dissipated into black ooze in an instant. Just defeating the shadow seemed to fill each persona user with newfound strength, feeling their personas strengthen from the experience. Turning around, Izuku blinked as several yen bills floated through the air, quickly catching them. This is F5,000 yen just from one shadow. What for real? Ryuji blanched as he walked up to Izuku with the girls. Makoto held the tip of her chin. That certainly seems like a lot for taking down one shadow. It seemed tough, but it didn't really fight. Now you see why I wanted to pursue it, Morgana skipped up to Izuku. What we just fought is what I call treasure demons. It's a special kind of shadow that's found hidden away inside pricey items within palaces. So wait, we can find those things around the palace just at random? Anne asked. That's right. As you saw, they come with a hefty reward for beating them. We should keep an eye out for them in the future, Morgana explained. That's intriguing. I wonder what would happen if I made one a persona and used it for a fusion, Izuku muttered to himself in thought. Anyway, that aside, let's keep going. Hopefully, we'll reach a safe room soon and take a much needed break. I am so glad we had a safe room before walking in here, Anne breathed out tiredly. Yeah, no kiddin'. 2 shadows in a row before Hiro found that switch. Ryuji grumbled, rolling his shoulder. Not to mention one of them were tough as shit. It certainly helped me get more experience fighting them with my quirk, but I can't argue that it hasn't exhausting, Makoto breathed out, flexing her fingers in front of her. I've used my quirk more times in these few hours than I have my whole life. Are you still able to keep going? I know using a quirk over and over like that has a heavy toll on your body, Izuku asked in concern, wiping his forehead of sweat. He had been able to claim Kappa Tengu as his newest persona from the fight, but it was a long, drawn-out negotiation after a grueling fight. I'm fine, thanks. I can keep going for now, Makoto reassured. Plus, we shouldn't have much to go before the map cuts off. We should explore just a bit further to see if we can get the second half of this one, Morgana suggested. Seeing the others nod in agreement, Izuku nodded back. Makoto let the others walk ahead of her, trying to steady her trembling arms while no one was watching. This is no big deal. I can keep fighting. I have to. She told herself, taking a tired breath before putting on a confident mask and following the others. They continued into the next hall, looking around to see the aesthetic had changed from deep blue to almost garishly glittering gold. As they pressed on, they looked around to see a more open loft surrounding them. To their left was a small indoor pond lit with a yellow hue, furnished trees lining the edges. On their right, blue and yellow stained glass lined the walls with the exception of the opening at the center. Whoa, what's up with this place? Anne wondered aloud as the group moved to the new open area. Ahead of them was a set of blue Japanese-style sliding doors, mounted in front of a tall golden section some ways ahead of them. It's even gaudier than everything else we've seen so far. Considering the design of a palace, there's no doubt that something important is hidden that way, said Morgana. I don't feel the treasure's presence, but it's no doubt something he doesn't want anyone to know about. Well, let's go find out. Ryuji said. With that, the five continued forward. The sliding doors drew back as they approached, revealing several layers of doors behind the first. Once they reached the end of it, the group came to a sudden halt at the new sight before them. A new set of security lasers blocked off the next area. These were bright enough to see even without Izuku's third eye. Electricity streamed across them periodically as if to warn intruders to stay out. Whoa, what the hell? Ryuji blurted, looking for any sort of way around them. These are the security lasers. They look completely different than the ones from before, Anne said, eyeing them all curiously. Morgana's gaze narrowed. This is just only further proof that there's something worth protecting past here. Hey, over here, Makoto called out, her attention drawn to a sign standing close by. All security personnel. This door can only be opened from the security room that lies beyond it. Please be cautious, as it cannot be opened from the outside. Wait, what? Then how are we supposed to get inside? Ryuji asked in panic. Hold on, I've seen that door's design before, Morgana muttered before realization dawned on his face. Oh, right. I remember seeing that door before in Madaram's shack. Come on, let's head back. Huh? What does the door in the real world have to do with this one? Izuku asked. I'll explain once we're in a safe area. Let's fall back so we can plan our next move, Morgana suggested. Izuku looked over at Ryuji and Anne in wonder. Shrugging, the three began to follow the cat back out. Wait, that's it. Izuku paused and looked back at Makoto, the third-year student was still standing by the lasers. Just for now. If Morgana-san has a way we can get past, then we should see what he has to say. But shouldn't we at least try to get past on our own first? Makoto asked. The others stopped in their tracks to gaze back at her. Maybe I can absorb the electricity in some of the security systems long enough to open a way forward, and then you all can use your personas to smash the door down. That's too risky. We might end up bringing a whole lot of shadows down on us that way, Izuku said. He gazed over at the translucent blue doors emblazoned with a golden peacock feather design. Even if we get past the lasers, smashing a door like that will cause a lot of noise. He's right, Queen. And considering that this door is likely protected by Madaram's cognition, muscling our way through likely isn't a possibility, Morgana pointed out. Makoto opened her mouth, looking around at the group before sighing. I understand, Makoto nodded quietly. Izuku could hear the dejection in her voice, but beckoned her to follow. Come on, we shouldn't linger. This area isn't safe, Morgana called out, pulling his attention forward. Realizing that he was right, Izuku decided to hold on to the thought. Come on, Queen. Let's beep, sirens blared as all the lights in the room turned red. Izuku and the others snapped their heads back toward the lasers. Makoto stood there, eyes widening in horror as her hand drew away from the security system. Dude, what happened? Ryuji exclaimed, the others looking around in fear. I'm sorry, I just reached out to touch the security bars, but it went off even though I didn't touch the lasers. Makoto explained, turning to Izuku in a panic. Shoot, we have to, Izuku began, eyes bulging as he saw a black ooze exploded just feet behind Makoto. Koto-san, behind you. What? Makoto turned just in time to see a giant white hand yank her backward and press her into the ground face first. The shadow that formed behind her was taller than Carter, its body blocky and angular, as though it was an elaborate piece of origami. It wore a crescent crown on its expressionless face. A 5-point star drawn on top of its head. You intruders have gotten far enough. The shadow growled. It pressed Makoto harder into the ground and made her cry out in pain. Get away from her. Izuku growled, stepping forward and preparing to draw his mask off. Before he could get close, black ooze erupted in 3 places around him and the others. 3 Kappa Tengu rose out of the muck, surrounding the rest of the thieves and blocking their path. Get the hell out of our way. Ryuji gripped his spiked bat tighter. You're all going to be judged by the magnificent Madaram. Don't resist. Gee guys, don't, Makoto coughed out as the shadow continued to press her into the ground. Don't worry, Koto-san. We'll be there in just a second. Izuku's teeth were grinding against each other as he summoned Carter to his side. I'll blast through, don't bother. Izuku and the others froze, looking back down at Makoto. Tears trailed down her cheeks, her hands trembling against the ground. This is my fault, Makoto choked out, her fingers digging into the carpet. I was just so forget about that for now. We'll get to you. Carter's fist was already glowing as Izuku reared his own back. It might drain me, but it'll be worth it if I can clear a path and kill the shadow before it does any more harm. I was so desperate to be useful that I acted against my better judgment. Izuku's heart sank, his attack coming to a grinding halt as his friend poured her heart out. I've always done what others ask of me, hoping that I can prove my worth. Prove I'm not useless. Makoto dug her face into the ground. I thought that by helping you all, that I was finally being useful, but I'm not even useless. Whether it's you or my sister, I'm just a liability. Kodo-san. The shadow cackled. It leaned its head closer to hers. At least you know your place, intruder. But if you want to be useful to someone, why don't you make your partners lower their weapons? Otherwise, they'll have to suffer consequences of bringing along someone so useless. It pressed down on her even harder. She could feel her bones creaking under the strain. I'm sure I'd be doing them a favor, but they seem to care either way. I won't. Makoto grated out painfully, struggling to breathe under the pressure. Kodo-san. Izuku began, dragging her fading vision back up to him. Izuku's fists trembled at his side and furious tears streamed down his cheeks. My Hero Academia est tout ost. From me to you, what are you doing? G snapped. His bewildered teammates all turned him. You're the one who encouraged me to keep trying. Don't you remember what you told me? Makoto felt a wave of nostalgia hit her, distracting from the pain. What I told him. Makoto saw herself sitting on the swing sets in the park next to Izuku. Both were covered in cuts, scrapes and dirt from their latest tussle with Bakugo and his lackeys. Hey Kodo-san. What is it, Midori? Tears were already leaking from the corners of his eyes. You know that I don't have a quirk, right? Well yeah, but that's okay. It won't. I can't have a quirk. Ever. Any semblance of composure collapsed as he descended into hysterical sobbing. The doctor said that I should just give up. That I can't be a hero. Not even my mom thinks I can. Makoto's eyes fell on the green-haired boy next to her. Izuku's crying fits were nothing new, but he seemed to be in physical pain as he clutched a part of his chest above his heart. Midori, can I without a quirk, can I? Izuku's trembling gaze trailed back up to Makoto. Can I still be a hero? Makoto frowned in sympathy, gaze falling to her feet. A silence followed the question. Izuku bit his bottom lip, looking away from Makoto as he gave up hope on the answer. I don't know, Makoto finally said, eyes meeting with Izuku's again as she spoke. But would you know if you let that stop you? Becoming a hero without a quirk, it does sound hard. I won't lie, Makoto said honestly, standing up from her seat. But if you give up before you even try, how would you find out? But my papa told me something. You only need one person's approval to be who you want to be. Yours. Makoto declared, giving a confident grin. So what if a doctor or even your mom says you can't be a hero? You just have to prove it to yourself, don't you? Even without a quirk. Yeah. Give it your best shot. Prove it to yourself instead of trying to prove it to them. After all, isn't that what going plus ultra is? Kodo-san. Even more tears welled up in his eyes that soon cascaded on either side of him. Thank you. Hey. Don't cry harder, you big baby. She pulled the younger boy into a hug, letting his grateful sob soak her shirt. Prove it to myself. That's right, that's what Dad told me. Quiet. Any more and I'll crush this intruder where she lays. The shadow roared in anger before looking down at Makoto. Now do as you're told and tell them to drop their weapons. Like a good little girl. I've been doing what I'm told, Persona 5 Ost. Awakening, a gale burst from beneath her body, who dropped her and recoiled at the unexplained force. It was almost as if a small storm was circling her body as she pushed herself off the ground, as if she hadn't been harmed at all. I am sick of it. Sick of doing everything I'm told. I'm sick of lying to myself and trying to please others. Is she? Izuku mumbled, a small smile spreading across his lips. I think she is. Morgana smirked. Hell yeah, Ryuji chuckled. It's about time, said Anne. The four quickly touched their masks, summoning their personas as they awaited Makoto's own. So shut your damn mouth, you monster. Because I'm not bending to your will or anyone else's. Have you decided to tread the path of strife? Yes, come to me. The words came almost naturally. Very well. Let us proceed with the contract at once. Makoto's eyes burned gold and her head began to feel like it would split in two. She screamed in agony, gripping her forehead. I am thou. Thou art I. You have finally found your justice. Please never lose sight of it again. Makoto took a heavy step forward, fragmenting the tile underfoot. A flash of blue materialized a pointed metal mask on her face. This memorable day marks the graduation from your false self. She knew immediately what she had to do. Makoto gripped the edges of the mask on her face. With a single painful tug, Makoto ripped it off, her blood-curdling scream echoing through the halls of the museum. But in that instant, blue flame erupted all around her. Izuku and the others covered their eyes, blinded by the furious blue light. As it started to fade, Izuku and the others lowered their arms, their jaws slackening as they took in the scene before them. Makoto's persona was nothing like they pictured it would be. She sat atop a silver and chrome-plated motorcycle that was armored in the front and back. The exhaust ports took the form of vents in the front rather than the back. A serene, maiden-like face encased in blue glass sat atop the front wheel. A few revs of the handle brought the engine roaring to life, the wheels spinning and ready to grind Makoto's foes into paste. I will never lose heart again. I'll go full throttle, straight ahead. Right, Johanna, to be continued. This is the end of the video. If you enjoyed the story, then hit the like button and comment your favorite part, but for now see you all in the next video.